Hey everyone, Charlie Morgan here, and welcome to Elucidatory Axioms. Now, don't be afraid by the complicated looking name of this video. Elucidatory means to essentially bring clarity to and make something clear. And an axiom is a fundamental or a first principle, a base truth. And so what we're going to be doing in this video, at the beginning of this program, is bringing clarity to the truth. And what I'm going to aim to do throughout this video is basically explain the fundamentals of business, the fundamentals of making money, and the fundamentals of the specific business model that you're going to be diving into. Now, when you want to do anything and start a business or really make any change in your life, you have to start with the truth. You have to be able to reason from first principles and have an accurate understanding and gauge of what is actually true. Because if you can't do this and you don't do this, which most people never do, then every single action you take and every single thing you do is going to be out of alignment with the objective nature of the world. And that's going to make your life and your time with this business extremely difficult. So I hope you are ready to have your head blown clean off your body. You should finish this video with a new lease of life and a new understanding as to how reality works, and it should make things very clear. This is how billionaires think, so I'm very excited to share it with you. Now, I'm sure you've noticed the length of this video and how long this thing is. I didn't tell you it was going to be easy, all right? I know that you have the shiny object syndrome to jump straight to the appointment booking module or the sales module, and just try and rush through this thing and 2 times speed it and just half listen to it whilst you're doing something else. This video and the videos to come in the foundation and mindset modules are the most important videos, and if you get these right, you can find anything you want to do with sales and appointment booking. So please, maybe stick me on 1.25 speed. Do not watch this in 2 times speed with 5 other tabs open in your phone on your desk. Do not skip this video because it's long. Suffer through it, and I promise you, when you come out the other side, you'll be glad you did. So here's what we're going to cover. We're going to talk about something called causal law, making money explained. So I'm actually going to explain what the hell is money and how do we actually make it. Critical information, lock and key, bending reality, application, consulting explained, 6-figure roadmap, and the quadrant. So there's a lot to cover. And I know that these topics don't seem all that important to you right now. You might be looking at some of these things being like, critical information, causal law, I don't need to know any of this stuff. Just give me the sales script, Charlie, I'll be fine. Well, you won't be fine, okay? As someone who's spent the last 8 years, 9 years getting to grips with the foundations of making money online and this business model, I can tell you it really is just about the foundations. So without further ado, let's get into it. So welcome to Elucidatory Axioms. Once again, elucidatory means to bring clarity to something, and axiom means fundamental. Here we will explore the fundamentals of business and making money so you can become successful beyond your wildest dreams and imagination. We will then explore what it means to be a consultant. So throughout this program, I'm going to refer to the business model that we're using as consulting or consultant. Now, a consultant to me can be a whole range of things. So you might think, okay, I'm a coach or I'm an expert and I sell information, or I'm an agency owner, or I'm a synthesizer or a course seller. There's lots of different terms that we can bucket into consultant. So, when I talk about consultant, I don't want you to think that I'm just referring to someone that, gives information over Zoom to someone or something like that. You can be a coach, agency owner, course seller, expert, synthesizer, anything that denotes the transfer of information from your brain to someone else's brain, or from your brain to someone else's business by doing it for them, is a consultant. And we're going to get into what that means later, because you kind of need to understand what this thing is if you actually want to do it properly. So let's begin with causal law. So causal law is the law that governs the entire universe. It sits at the foundation of all scientific development, all of humanity's progress, and it will also sit at the success of your business venture. Now, the problem is that most people live their lives completely ignorant of causal law, and they suffer pretty immeasurably for it. If you align yourself with causal law, you cannot fail. Now, causal law is a kind of weird thing to start a business training program with, to make money online, like law and cause, like what the hell does that mean? But we need to know it, because you're trying to undergo a change in your life, and the way that you're going to change your life is by changing other people's lives. And what I mean by that is, if you want to make money, well, then you need to help people. And the way you help someone is by, bringing a positive change and impact to their entire existence. As a consultant, that's what we're going to be doing. And I know that right now you might not know who you want to help or what you want to help them do, but this is the fundamental of this business model. And so if you want to undergo positive change for yourself, and if you want to help other people undergo positive change so you can do it for yourself, well, you kind of need to know why things change. So how do things change? And why do things change? And how do things happen? And why do things happen? Well, most people, they go about their lives believing that life just happens. And this might be true of your situation right now. They believe, or maybe you believe, that success is luck or a fluke. They believe that the future and their life is out of their control, and that they are just floating through space and time waiting for life to happen to them. So a lot of people believe that life is just this predetermined journey with a set destination, and they're just in it for the ride. They have no control over their life, and the universe is out to get them, and life just happens. They just ended up where they are right now by luck or fluke, or if they're not happy with where they are right now, then the opposite of those words. And you need to start looking at life like an airport. Now, most people enter the airport of life with no ticket and no idea of what destination they actually want or where they want to fly to. And they walk up to some random check-in desk in this airport of life, and this is like maybe when they're like 18 or something, and then they board a random flight with a random airline, and then they end up in somewhere like Sierra Leone in Africa. And the problem is, after a decade or two of being in Sierra Leone, they kind of wake up a little bit, and they get to like their 30s or 40s, whatever. And then they look around, and then they're like, hang on, wait, why am I in Sierra Leone? I don't want to be in Sierra Leone. Now, I've got nothing against the country. I've never been. But, this happens. People just, they don't take a grip on life. They just end up, getting on some random flight. And this happens with people when you're 18 years old or 19 or whatever, 17, everyone's asking you what do you want to do with your life? And then you kind of get pushed into maybe a university course, or you just apply for a random job, or you go to a careers center, and it's completely random. You're just I'll just go wherever this airport wants to take me, and that's not a good idea. You need to actually know what you want so you can actually start to make some progress towards a goal. Otherwise, you're going to just walk into some random careers advisor, and they're just going to be like, oh yeah, you could do this. And it might not be suited to your desires or wants or needs or goals or unconscious or personality. And then before you know it, you're in Sierra Leone and you wanted to be in, I don't know, Canada, right? You wanted to be in Toronto. Now, if you don't understand physical law, this is just another word for causal law. I'm just going to leave this here. If you don't understand physical or causal law, then you'll end up in some random metaphorical city in some random metaphorical country. So you need to know how things work and why things happen, because I can tell you life doesn't just happen. Things don't just randomly manifest in your life, and everything happens for a reason. And when people say everything happens for a reason, people think that what that means is this sort of woo-wah kind of coping mechanism if something bad happens. So if you fall out of love with your partner, or if you fall down the stairs and something bad happens to you, or you lose your job, and then everyone's like, oh, don't worry, man, everything happens for a reason. And they think they're comforting you because it's some higher power has got this reason as to why they've put you through this pain. But the truth is that of course it happens for a reason, but it's not the reason that everyone thinks. It's just causal. So the chances are that's where you are now in life. Life is going to take you for one hell of a ride if you let go of the reins and give the universe control of your fate. We need to be in the driver's seat. We need to be walking into that airport knowing where we want to go. If we don't, trouble. The most successful people in the world see life this way. They make life happen, and they force reality to change at a moment's notice. But how? How is this possible? like, you might not believe me right now because, you're like, well, hang on a minute, my life isn't like this. Like, I don't seem to have any control over my existence or my state of being. And I'm just like floating through life and things just happen to me and I'm pretty unlucky and I don't really know why. So like, I don't know, I can't make a change. Like, I've tried, I can't even stick to the gym or go to bed on time. Like, how the hell am I going to force reality to manifest in a different way? Well, the most successful people in the world, they understand cause and effect. Causal law is basically the phenomenon of cause and effect. Now, the entire universe is governed by these two words. So in life, we have a cause and effect. And a cause is basically you doing something or something happening. And the effect is something happening because something happened. And I'm going to give you lots of examples to make this concrete shortly. But the online business space and consulting is no different. And cause and effect is a simple mental model to denote how change happens. So in order for anything to change, right, there has to be a cause, and that cause will create an effect. Now, your goal or what you want is basically an effect. It's like a snapshot of the future that exists, metaphorically speaking. It's a potential outcome. And when we see our goals as effects, which is something that could happen, then what we can do is we can reverse engineer what we have to do to get there. And so if you want $10,000 a month, well, you can understand that as an effect, a future potential outcome that you could achieve, a snapshot of the future. And if you know what you want and you know the effect you want, then becoming successful and achieving that goal and seeing that effect manifest is all about just figuring out what causes that to happen and then behaving in that way in the present moment now, consistently over time. And then the effect will happen if you're accurate with this. This is how you make change. So the reason anything ever happens ever is because of cause and effect. Well, nearly everything. It depends on your religious beliefs, right? So, I'm not going to get into this one, but, maybe you don't want to be as, cut and dry and binary as I might be being here. Because if you have religious beliefs in God and stuff, then you might not believe this. But for a lot of it, especially business success, we can define cause and effect. So everything that happens in the observable world is a result of this. Now, I know this sounds too simple to be of value in a training program. You're like, well, duh, like, whatever, Charlie, like, I don't care. Trust me, I'm going somewhere with this, all right? And just, if you let me cook for a couple of hours here, you need to know this to know the deep stuff. So, yeah, it might be too simple to be of value to how to make money online, but trust me, it took me 8 years to get to grips with the power of understanding this, and it still blows my mind to this day, okay? So here's a visualizer. So this thing is called Hegel's dialectic, okay? And we're not going to get into the complexity of Hegel and Hegel, however you pronounce that guy's name. But, what we can understand is that life and the universe works with this little diagram. So we have a thesis, which is basically a current state of reality. And we have an antithesis, which is essentially a cause. And if we combine a current state of reality and a cause, then we have something called contact, where one thing comes into contact with another thing, and through time, over time, the contact of those two things will result in or manifest a new thing. And the new thing is basically called the synthesis, which is the effect. So the thesis is just something existing, which is a subject, and the antithesis is something else existing, which is the cause. Okay? And I'm going to give you some examples soon, so don't worry. Contact is the two things coming into contact, or the application of the antithesis to the thesis. And when we have this contact, well, we develop a synthesis, which is something new existing. So we go from something and something else to something new, and that's an effect. And there's always time, so that there's a delay between a cause happening and an effect manifesting, and this is known as latency. So there is latency, which basically means delay between cause and effect. So you can have a cause now, and you can apply something new to a certain state of reality to create a new sense of reality, but it usually takes time for that to actually bring about the synthesis. So for example, the thesis for you right now might be that you are broke and that you have no money, and the antithesis could be this, well, it probably will be this program, because this program, this whole thing is going to completely change your life. I can't understate that. Anyway, we'll talk about that in the mindset module. So then we've got this program, And you're going to apply this program to your life. If you're smart and if you're paying attention here and you haven't got more than one tab open and you're not on your phone and you're actually listening to me at a reasonable speed, you're going to take in this information and apply it. And then after some time, well, you'll be rich and you'll be successful if you actually listen. So when the new thing, which is the synthesis, exists, it becomes a new thesis. So what we have here is basically what's called a feedback loop, where if we're going from current state of reality to new state of reality, or from one thing to new thing, then what happens is the new thing eventually becomes the new state of reality, or the new thesis. And so once the synthesis is formed, it now becomes the thesis again. And this is how change happens. So this synthesis loops back around and becomes the thesis so that another period of change can happen. So if you think about how like a species evolves over time, for example, like, as like human beings. So if you believe the, theory that we evolved from apes and everything, like, we have the theory, which is that, the thesis is apes, antithesis is like some evolution and selection. Combine those two things together, you get a human being. But now the human being is the thesis, which needs to, continue to evolve. And there'll be a new, what do you call it? There'll be a new sort of environmental condition that will result in a new synthesis, and that's how evolution happens. Literally anything that comes into being in this world has happened because of this diagram. Your life is simply an aggregate of millions, if not more, of these cause and effect relationships. So I know that I know it seems hard to like boil your entire existence down to a diagram with a few circles, but this is really how it works. Anything that's ever happened ever to you or anywhere has happened in accordance with this diagram. Have you ever heard of the quote from Einstein that says the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result? Well, it's a pretty good quote. It's not actually the definition of insanity, but this is why, if in life you are just combining the same thesis and the same antithesis over and over again, you're going to get the same synthesis. So if you have a bad life, but there's no, that's the thesis, but there's no new antithesis, like you're not seeking new information, you're not looking to grow or learn or anything, then it's impossible to have a new synthesis. Like, if you're just going through the same old courses you used to go through, or talking to the same people, or going to the same places, then, well, of course nothing's going to change, because you need to come into contact with something new for something new to happen. But a lot of people, they don't do this. They kind of just live the same day every day for 80 years and then they die. And then they get to 80, they're like, oh, this was a wild ride, wasn't it? I wonder how the hell this happened. It's like, you don't get it. So here's some examples for you. So a thesis could be your skin, okay? And the antithesis could be the sun, and the contact between the skin and sun could be sunbathing. So we need to have like a verb if we're going to do something. We have to do something here. It's application, right? The synthesis could then be sunburn, and it could take you 1 hour to get sunburned, okay? So you, sun, sunbathing, sunburn. And then the synthesis, the sunburn is now the thesis, because now what you might do is have sunburn and then like after sun lotion, and then you put some after sun lotion on your sunburn, and then you're not sunburned anymore. And then you do it again, and it kind of loops around. Thesis, cancer. Okay, so let's say you've got cancer. I hope you don't, of course. And then antithesis could be X-rays. Contact is radiotherapy, which is one of the methods we treat cancer. And the synthesis would hopefully be no cancer. And this might take 2 months or 8 weeks of treatment. So, we can change the state of reality through the application of an antithesis. Thesis, you could be focused. So right now you could be focused on this video, and that could be the current state of a tiny fragment or facet of the entire existence of the natural world and reality. But you could be focused right now, and then the antithesis could be your iPhone. So maybe you've got your phone on your desk if you're being an idiot right now and you can't focus to save your life because you need constant stimulation. And then the contact could be like a notification. So maybe your phone is like, maybe you're absolutely insane and you've got notifications on. And we'll get to this. I'm not trying to demean you for having notifications on, but business success is just applied focus over time. So if you've got your phone on your desk right now with like Snapchat and WhatsApp and Instagram and God forbid TikTok and Twitter all like pushing notifications to you, like, well, your synthesis is going to be a distracted state. and it's difficult to understand meaningful information and make it feel important enough to act on if like you're constantly distracted. And this could be a 2-second time latency. So we go from focused to distracted in 2 seconds with the antithesis of the iPhone and the contact notification. So thesis, poor. Antithesis, buy lottery ticket. Contact, win the lottery. Synthesis, rich. Time could be 7 days. Thesis, I'm dumb. Antithesis, I'm going to read 100 books. Contact, I actually read them. Synthesis is smart. Time, it could take you 10 years to become smart. I mean, smart doesn't really exist on a binary scale. It's really how smart or how dumb are you, but you get the point. So thesis could be you're really thirsty, right? And you really want some water. Antithesis is you have water, you drink it, and then you're hydrated, and this could take 30 seconds. Bored, Netflix, watch, entertained, 2 minutes. Thesis, you're unfit. Antithesis could be a treadmill. Contact could be running on that treadmill. Synthesis could be that you're now fit, and it's taken 6 months. Thesis, your current situation in life. Antithesis, this program. Contact, actually applying the content. And then the synthesis could be your goal actually realized, which I'm pretty sure it will be if you pay attention and don't give up and stick to this thing. And then 12 months, it might take you 12 months to do that. It could take you 6 months, could take you 3 months, could take you 2 years, could take you 12 months, I don't know. Probably not 2 years. Thesis, some atoms. Antithesis, some more atoms. Contact, a cheeky bit of heat, and the synthesis, the entire universe as we know it. So, this might take anywhere between 13 to 27 billion years, but this is the theory of the Big Bang and how the universe began, right? So, once again, I'm not going to get into the theological argument as to how the universe was created, but if you believe the Big Bang theory, what we had was some atoms, and then some more atoms, and then those atoms got kind of heated and they bumped into each other. And then after like 13 to 20 billion years, we have the entire universe as we know it. Okay? So that's a pretty interesting thing to think about. This thing comes from the very beginning. Now, if this thing can bring the entire universe into existence, I think it can help you become a millionaire. Now, you're like, okay, Charlie, this sounds great and everything. This is great. Maybe you're not saying that. I don't really know. But you're probably thinking, like, why the hell do I care about this? Like, how on earth does this thing apply to me having success with an online business and making money? Well, more than you could possibly imagine. So let's apply this to the art and science of making money. So now that we've got to grips with the first principle of reality and really something that every single human being should know, we're going to explain how to actually make money. And we're going to use this diagram and this idea to develop an understanding that you can act out and basically become successful with. So now we know that for every effect, there must be a cause. For every synthesis, we require a thesis and an antithesis. And that's basically, causing an effect to happen. And what this means is that your goal, your dream, or whatever you want from this program is an effect. Okay? It's a synthesis. Albeit it doesn't exist right now, but it's possible because, it kind of exists in your imagination, so it's kind of real to a degree. And if you can imagine it, and it's, within the laws of physics and nature, then you can actually do it. Like, nearly anything is possible that you can imagine, provided it doesn't break the laws of physics. And also provided you have enough time, right? Because I could say I want to be like a decatrillionaire, but I'm probably going to die before compounding will allow that to happen. But anyway, so provided that your goal or dream is achievable within the laws of physics and nature, you'd best bet there is a cause, well, multiple causes for it. And these are fully within your control to act out. I'm trying to make this point. All you have to do is set a goal and know what you want, and understand that it's 99.99999% of the time going to be achievable. And so all you have to do to achieve it is to find the causes, which are the antitheses that you need, and then go and get them and start acting them out. So therefore, your success, and I'm defining success as just you achieving your goal, is as simple as finding out what causes it to happen and acting out that cause. So maybe you're right now, maybe you're broke. And maybe you're going to make some money, and that's going to come into your bank. And then you're going to be rich. And it's going to take however long it takes. Well, duh. If I'm broke and I make money, then I'm going to be rich, right? So how do we make money? Like, how does money work? How does money, what's this weird abstract phenomenon that everyone seems to be obsessed with? Because we all kind of just agreed on this thing. Like, money doesn't exist. Like, coins, like, they're just pieces of metal, and notes are just, you know, pieces of paper, and money in a bank account is just a number on a screen. It's just like binary code. The money doesn't exist. It's not real. Like, it exists because we give it meaning, but all we're exchanging is just bits of metal and bits of, you know, bits of information on the computer, and then like some notes and stuff here and there. But it's real because we make it real, because it's how we've organized our society. So how the hell do we make it, and how do we attract it? Well, that really is the $1 million question. So I'm going to give you $1 million answer. And this thing's going to blow your mind. This is going to make making money for you so much easier, because you actually, after this, you know what you're dealing with. You know what you have to do. So here we go. Money is made when value is created. Making money is an exchange. So if we think about what making money really is, like it's a flow where money is entering your bank account. But what we need to do is we need to find the inverse flow of that transaction, because people don't just give you money. Like, you don't just make money. Like, I mean, unless you're the bank or the government, then sure, you can literally print it, but I'm assuming you're probably not in that position. So making money is an exchange. So in order to make it, you must exchange it, or you must exchange something in return. The thing in question is value. And in order to have value to exchange, you must create it. Now, don't worry, because I'm going to explain what value is, and we're going to get to the bottom of this thing. I'm going to blow your mind, but let's start with this. So if we want to make money, this is the synthesis, okay? Making money, like actually existing in a world where we make our own money, and money enters our bank account, and we have wealth. So this is the synthesis. If this is the effect, well, what's the cause? Well, if the thesis is that value is created, and the antithesis is a financial transaction, and transaction is basically, you know, when someone gives you money, then if we apply time, then money is made. Okay? So value created for someone, like for a human being, if you create value for someone and they're in a position to act out a financial transaction, and you do this over some time, which might be like 5 seconds for them to send a wire transfer, money will be made. Now, a transaction can occur before value is created based on trust. So for example, like if you buy something before having access to it, you trust that the value that has been promised will be delivered. So for example, like if you're on Amazon and, you know, you want to buy, I don't know, like, what do people buy on Amazon? Let's say you want to buy an iPad on Amazon. Well, the iPad is going to create value in your life. And so you're going to go ahead and you're going to perform a financial transaction and pay Amazon and trust them to ship the value to you. So a transaction can occur at the point of sale. So like if you go and buy an ice cream and they literally give you the ice cream and then you pull your card out and pay, or, you know, the financial transaction can happen before the value is created on the premise that you trust the person enough to actually deliver. Okay? So that's how money is made. We need a financial transaction to happen, but the only way that can happen is if we create value. Well, okay, how do we create value? Okay, so if value creation is the effect and the synthesis we want to achieve, how do we create that? Well, value is created when pain is alleviated. And once pain is alleviated, a human will associate the thing, which is basically the solution to their pain, with the alleviate of their pain, with the alleviation of the pain, therefore creating value. So let me say that again. Once pain, or value is created when pain is alleviated. Once pain is alleviated, a human being will associate the thing, or solution, that alleviated their pain with the alleviation of their pain, therefore creating value. Now, it doesn't exist physically. Value isn't something that you can point at. It doesn't exist physically. It's just in the mind of a human. Value manifests as an associative phenomenon between an emotion and something. So hang on a minute. Let's just explain that. So value is created when pain is alleviated. I'm not talking about physical pain. Well, sometimes it might be that, But I'm not talking necessarily about like actually like scraping your knee on the floor or like having a migraine. I'm talking about like psychological discomfort as a result of having a situation you don't want. So for example, right now, if you are broke and you don't have any money, you are in pain because of this problem. And if I come along with this program and provide a solution to that problem, I am therefore alleviating your pain. If it works, right? I'm alleviating your pain. And what you're going to do is you're going to associate the alleviation of your pain and suffering with value. So if a product comes along and it alleviates pain for you, you now associate that product with value. So the alleviation of pain is valuable, okay? And value isn't something that exists. You can't point to it. It just exists in the mind of a human. And it manifests as an associative phenomenon between an emotion and something. So something that solves pain, like for example, let's say that you've had a little bit too much to drink and you wake up the next day with a hangover. You are in pain, okay? And, maybe you eat some food and then you take some paracetamol or some ibuprofen. You take some painkillers. And 20 minutes later, your migraine's gone and you don't feel like you're about to utterly perish. Well, now what's going to happen in your mind, albeit unconsciously or maybe a little bit consciously, is you're going to associate the painkiller with the emotion of, okay, I'm no longer in pain anymore. And you're going to see that thing as valuable. So value is created when pain is alleviated, okay? So once again, we can use this diagram. So if value creation is the synthesis, which is what we want to achieve, well, all we need to do to create value is alleviate pain with a solution. So value is created when the human being associates the alleviation of their pain with the solution that alleviated it. Okay? And don't worry, I'm going to give you plenty of examples of this later on, but we'll just get into grips with the basics now. So, we have the current sort of thesis of the alleviation of pain, and then inside of someone's brain, once the pain is alleviated, they will associate the alleviation of that pain with whatever alleviated it, and that's how value is created. And this is why we buy things. A human being will not make a purchase or a financial transaction if they do not associate that transaction in some way, shape, or form with the alleviation of some sort of suffering. And there is no exception to this rule. Maybe there's like one or two, but it's very, very rare to find someone buy something that doesn't alleviate pain. Because otherwise, why would you buy something that doesn't create value in your life? Like you just don't. Like, for example, you could say, yeah, but what about transactions that don't even result in buying something like charity? Well, just think about that for a second. If you're sat on your couch and you see an advert for, a starving child in a country, and it says sponsor a child for $100 a month, and you say, okay, I'm going to send money to this charity. Well, seeing that advert made you feel pain. And the only way out of that pain was to like, damn, this child needs me to help them. So I'm going to pay, and, on the premise that charity is now going to send me updates on how I've changed this child's life. And I'm no longer in that pain anymore. Like, paying for that child has alleviated the suffering of someone else, which has alleviated my suffering. So I now associate the money I paid with the alleviation of my suffering, and therefore value is being created. Okay? So the word pain is interchangeable with suffering, but suffering sounds a little bit too existential, I think, so I chose pain. Okay, so where are we? So money is made when value is created, and value is created when pain is alleviated. But the question then becomes, okay, Charlie, how do we alleviate pain? Like, I'm not ibuprofen, my middle name's not paracetamol. How the hell am I supposed to alleviate pain for people? Well, once again, we're going deeper. Pain is alleviated when problems are solved. Okay? Now, pain or suffering is the condition of existence. Okay? Everyone feels it, from billionaires to monks. We all suffer. We're all in pain. Life is sometimes a bitch. And pain manifests because of problems that exist in our current situation in life. And problems are unwelcome conditions in our lives that cause suffering or pain. And these painful conditions can typically be resolved with a solution. And so if the synthesis we want to achieve is the alleviation of pain, so we can achieve the synthesis of value creation, so we can achieve the synthesis of making money, then, well, we kind of need to like think, okay, what am I going to do here? So the thesis is the pain or the problem, really. And the antithesis is the solution. And so if someone is in pain because of a problem they have, and we apply a solution to that problem, then we're going to alleviate the pain. So once again, for example, I'll use the hangover example because it's pretty clear. Hungover, that's the pain, that's the problem. Solution is some water and some pills, right? And with time, the pain will be alleviated. Or for example, let's say you have a daughter, okay? I don't know if you have a daughter or not, I don't. But let's say you have a daughter, and let's say that she is, let's say that she really wants a coloring book, and all of her friends have got this coloring book. And seeing her with all of her friends without this coloring book, when all of her friends are coloring in another book, makes you feel some pain because your daughter's missing out. And you love your daughter, and so you're in pain because she's in pain. And so what you do is you say, okay, I'm just going to buy this coloring book. And the coloring book is the solution. You give her the coloring book, immediately you alleviate her pain. She runs off to her friends and starts coloring it in, and now you have alleviated pain. And you now associate the purchase of that coloring book with value. And that's why you bought it, because it alleviated pain, because it solved a problem, and it created value. So by solving a problem that is causing pain, we alleviate pain. So the root of money making is solution. Okay? This is the first principle really of financial transaction. It's making products and creating things that solve painful problems to alleviate pain. And then when you alleviate the pain, I know I'm repeating myself, but you have to get this. When you alleviate the pain, the solution becomes associated with the phenomenon of value, and that's why people buy things. When I refer to pain, I'm not necessarily referring to physical pain, like I said, like breaking a leg or cutting a finger. Pain usually manifests as psychological discomfort. And pain is the very reason that we, as a species, have progressed and evolved. And pain is an evolutionary mechanism that pushes us forward away from our current situation. And pain forces change. The reason that we do anything and buy anything and go anywhere, and the reason we do anything ever is typically because of pain. It's because we want to escape pain. Pain is literally the first principle of psychology, or pain avoidance is the first principle of psychology, and it's pretty much the first principle of the entire human condition. So it helps to understand it. It does not matter what you achieve or what your current situation is, you will always find discomfort and suffering in it, especially with money or achievement. Now, I know this sounds hard to believe, where, right now if you're broke and you're like, well, if I was making 10K a month, there's no way I could be in pain. Well, that's very true at the beginning, but if you plateau and, you stop growing, and then you start to realize that there's more things you want to buy that you can't buy, and then you realize that one business class flight to Bali wipes out 30% of your monthly income, you're going to start to think, I want more than this. And I can tell you that I make $1 million a month now, and I still find discomfort and pain in my current financial situation. And I know that is that's a very out of touch with reality thing to say, but not my reality. Might be yours. And this is why billionaires continue to work, and this is why #1 world-class athletes train to beat their own records. And in order to create value, we must alleviate pain by solving problems. And this axiom works because pain avoidance, like I said, is the first principle of the human condition. And, if you really stop to think about this for a second here, your goals exist as vehicles to escape pain. And you will purchase things and you will buy things to facilitate the achievement and accomplishment of said goal. And it's very rare that you want to move towards something. So if your goal right now is to make $10,000 a month, you don't want $10,000 a month necessarily. You just don't want to be where you are now. We use goals as things that pull us out of negative situations typically. It's very rare that you want what you want. You invert it. You just don't want what you have now. And so you set a different thing and you work towards it. But that being said, we're not going to get too far into the weeds and too philosophical here, but that's basically how we make money. So if we know that pain is alleviated when problems are solved, well, the next problem is how do we actually solve these problems? And so now we're going to dive into something called critical information, which is absolutely imperative to your understanding if you want to make money. So, okay, well, how do we solve problems? Because if we need to solve problems to alleviate pain, to create value, to make money, then we need to kind of understand the base of this thing. So problems are solved when something called critical information is applied. And I'm gonna do a deep dive into critical information and like how to understand this and apply it and everything later on. But for all you need to know for now is that critical information is basically the quote unquote right information required to solve a problem. Okay? So coming back to the random example of your daughter's coloring book, if your problem is, she hasn't got this book and her friends have it and she feels left out and she's sad, and the solution is to buy the book, then the critical information is like knowing which book to buy and where to buy it and stuff like that, okay? So really all solution is application of information, but the reason it's called critical information is because critical denotes right or correct. Because, if you buy the wrong coloring book or you buy her a coloring book that only has swastikas in it, that's probably not going to be a good idea, right? So you need to make sure you've got the right information, and the right information is denoted as critical information. Do not worry. Again, there will be examples that will explain this in full detail. So most problems exist and most problems persist in life. Well, we'll put here, most problems exist and persist for two reasons. So any problem you have exists or persists in your life for two reasons. Either you don't have the right critical information to solve it, or you have the right critical information to solve it, but you don't apply it. And you either don't apply it because you're lazy and self-sabotaging, or because you don't have the time, tools, or means to do it. So this is really the only reason the problem ever exists in your life. Like the problem you have of being broke and not having any money and being poor exists because you don't have the information that you need to have to solve it. That's it. And if you do have the information, which you now do with this program, like if you go through this program, I know this sounds, this is going to sound big-headed or egotistical, but if you go through this program and you don't make it work, then either it didn't work because you're lazy and self-sabotaging, or because you just genuinely don't have like the time or the means to do it. But this is very, very unlikely, because like if you haven't got any money right now and you're just starting, then even if you've got a 9 to 5, and there should be no excuse. So if it doesn't work, it's going to be because of laziness or self-sabotage or something like that. So if you're broke, all you need is the right information, and you need to apply it. You need to apply yourself and take action. And that's really what taking action is it's the understanding of the right information and then acting out the world as if it's true. So let's have a look at this, okay? So we've got the problem, which is the thesis. This is the thing that exists, that is creating suffering and pain in someone's life or in your life. And then we have the critical information, which is basically, we're going out into the world and we're finding the information that, if applied, would solve this problem. And then what we're doing is we're basically applying it. So critical information is information that is the right information to find and apply to the problem to solve it. And so this is called application, or taking action on the information you found. And then we give it some time, and then the solution comes about. And the solution is the synthesis. Okay? So understand this. Your job as a consultant, and you can call yourself a coach or an agency owner or a course seller or whatever the hell, your job as a consultant, coach, agency owner, whatever term you use to define it, is to apply, or is to find and apply the critical information required to solve a problem for a group of people, also known as a niche. We'll get into that in another video. And that's it. Your job as a consultant is to find and apply the critical information required to solve a problem for a group of people, and that's it. That's the first principle. That's the axiom. That's the fundamental. That's the bottom line. That's the brass tacks. That's it. Okay? How do we make money? Well, money is made when value is created. Value is created when pain is alleviated. Pain is alleviated when problems are solved, and problems are solved when critical information is applied to them. So if we want to make money, we come all the way to the bottom of this idea, and we understand that it just hinges on us finding the right critical information and applying it to the problem of our clients. Now, this video is a two-edged sword. because you can use this information to understand how to solve your life and make money for yourself, but you can also use this information to understand how to help your clients. And so as you're watching this video and some of the other videos in the foundational modules, I mean, all of the videos really, not only do they apply to you and your understanding of the world, and they're going to help you make money and be successful, but they're also going to help your clients, because you're going to use this information to solve problems for them and move forward for them. Now, it's worth noting that some problems aren't solved with critical information. So I'm not saying that every single problem in the world is only solved through information. But honestly, if you really think about it, most of them are. Like, for example, if you're hungry right now, and that's a problem because, well, you're in pain, you're hungry, okay? And let's say you eat a banana. That's the solution. And then you get satiated, which is the synthesis. So, thesis is you're hungry, antithesis is a banana, you eat the banana, that's the contact, and then maybe a couple of minutes elapses and now you're satiated. Satiation basically means that you're full up, okay? Now, the banana isn't critical information per se, it's just a banana. However, someone sold you this banana, okay? The banana's the solution, but someone sold it to you. And so whoever sold it to you, they had to plant, farm, harvest, store, transport, market, and sell it. So the banana's not the critical information per se, but the person who really solved that problem for you was the person who built the chain of operation to plant the thing, farm the thing, harvest the thing, store the thing, transport the thing. I mean, these are not easy things to do, to build like a banana empire and, for it to end up in a supermarket shelf for you to buy for $1 or 50 cents or whatever the hell bananas sell for these days. Inflation's gone mad after all. Whoever did that, they needed the critical information to build the agricultural and operational structures to sell it to you. So sometimes companies that sell products that aren't information-based still only add value by using critical information to get that product in front of you in the first place. For example, like if you're buying an iPhone, right? It's a product. It might not feel like it's critical information, but think about how much critical information was required to build the thing, design the thing, market the thing, get it to the point where it can be sold to you for like $1,000. Like, that's critical information, and that's the application of critical information to solve a problem, okay? So whilst products solve problems, the process that gave assent to the solution is where the value is derived from, okay? So understand, everything anyone buys ever is purchased in some way, shape, or form to solve a problem and alleviate pain, no matter how trivial it may be. And we're going to get into a bunch of examples here in a second, but to really solidify this, I want to just show you the money-making mechanism, right? Maybe I should have called this program the money-making mechanism. It sounds a lot shinier. But this is it. This is how you make money, okay? So what we do is we start with a problem. We find a problem that a person has, or a group. This is a niche, right? And we're going to get into this in the niche video, but we find a niche, we pick a group of people that we like or are interested in. We find a problem that they all share and they all have universally. Like, for example, one problem that a lot of young men might have or young women might have is that they're broke. And that could be a niche, is like young men that watch YouTube videos online. Problem, broke. We apply the critical information to the problem. We apply it. Or you can give someone the information, or you can do the work for them, or whatever. Then we have time, and then the solution happens. And the solution becomes the new thesis. Now, I know that up here, the thesis was pain, and the solution was antithesis, but really these are interchangeable, right? Because they're both kind of, theses and antitheses. So what I mean by this is the solution becomes the new, remember, it becomes, I can probably remove these things just to not confuse you, because, I'm gonna actually do this, because this is where it gets a little bit interesting, and I'll explain this in a second. Anyway, right, where was I? So the synthesis of solution becomes the new thesis, okay? And so if you have a solution, right, which could be like, a product, and then where there's pain that solution can basically alleviate, then if we apply the solution to the pain or the pain to the solution, then we're going to alleviate that pain, okay? And so, if we alleviate the pain as the synthesis of the application of solution to suffering, then obviously we have alleviation. And so the alleviation becomes the new thesis. And then, well, what do we do with alleviated pain? Well, what we do is we understand, it's pretty simple, that the value is created when pain is alleviated, and value is only created if the alleviation of pain is associated with a solution. So, let's say that one day, let's say you've got a massive problem in your life, like a huge problem, okay? Like, let's say that you've got a terminal illness. And let's say that one morning, right, let's say that you go to sleep. This is metaphor, this is like theoretically speaking. You've got a really bad terminal illness. Let's say that you've got cancer, okay? And before you go to sleep, you take 10 different anti-cancer pills that all claim that these obviously don't exist, but you take 10 anti-cancer pills, all of which are basically claiming to be like an immediate, instant, overnight solution. You take 10 of them. These obviously don't exist, but you take them. You wake up the next day, your cancer is completely gone. You've regained your weight, you've regrown your hair. Every single symptom you had of cancer is immediately gone, and now you're better and you've recovered overnight. The problem with that, don't get me wrong, I mean, that's not a problem, right? But the issue you're going to have is of the 10 pills you took, you don't know which one did cause the effect, or maybe it was a combination of multiple. So the problem is obviously value is being created here, but you don't know which pill to thank. It's hard to associate the alleviation of your pain with the solution. Therefore, the value creation gets distributed across all 10 pills. Does that make sense? So we can only perceive value when a product has solved a problem that's creating pain for us. Okay? And that's the only, and value, other than that, value does not exist. It exists in the mind of a human, and the entire market, the entire economic machine ticks on the perception of value when this phenomenon happens. Okay? And so value is created. And once value is created as the synthesis of this thesis and antithesis combination, then it becomes the new thesis. And then, how do we go from value creation to making money? Well, we ask for a financial transaction. Now, it's pretty simple. You create value, and then a financial transaction happens, and money is made. And this is how we get what we want. The synthesis we want to do with this program and all along is just to make money. But to make money, we have to create value by, obviously a financial transaction occurring. But how do we create value? Well, we alleviate pain, and by alleviating pain with the solution, there will become association will happen between those two things, like classical conditioning, so to speak, which creates the value. But then, to create the value, we have to alleviate the pain. But to alleviate the pain, we have to find a solution. And to find a solution, we have to apply and basically find the critical information and apply it to the problem. So I know it's literally that simple. This is how you make money. This is how any financial transaction happens. This is how any business or entrepreneur gets clients and makes money. This is it. It's literally this simple. And the funny thing is that what's going to happen is when you start making money, this synthesis, it has to become the new thesis. It's impossible to not. And so what's going to happen is this is going to loop around and loop around and loop around and loop around and loop around. And now that you've made money, you have a problem. And that problem could be, well, how do I grow this money? What do I buy? How do I keep growing this money? I haven't got enough money. I need more money. Or people are now trying to steal my money. Don't get me wrong. Don't think your problems end when this happens. Trust me, you're going to start doing crazy stuff to keep it and make more of it. You're going to move countries and I did, move to Dubai. You're going to constantly be chasing the high of making more of it. This thing does, just a fair warning, making money, it comes with some damn problems, okay? It really does. Ask any entrepreneur who's got money. Don't get me wrong. The problems of being broke are way worse than the problems of making money. But it's not problem-free and it's not pain-free, okay? But it's still a good goal to aim for because it's going to be way better. The problems to solve at this level are way better than the problems to solve it, when you're just broke. Okay, so that's how you make money. Just take a second, let it sink in, problem, solution, solution, pain alleviation, value creation, money made. Screenshot it if you want. I mean, you can actually come into this document. This will be available in the resources section below, and you can open up this Miro board. And I hope that gives you some clarity on what the hell we're actually doing here. Okay? So now let's actually get into some examples, because I've obviously given you some very strange examples, like a coloring book for a daughter, hopefully not with horrible war signs in it, okay, and like, you know, overnight cancer pills. Like these are obviously abstract examples. So let me make it concrete. So, okay, so ibuprofen or a painkiller pill. So once again, we've done this one. You've had too much to drink and you're hungover, so you're in pain because you've got a headache or a migraine. Now, you might be thinking like, well, how can a pill be critical information? Well, first of all, like understanding that if you take it will solve the problem, that's critical information. That's pharmaceutical critical information. If you go to a pharmacy and you have a specific problem with a part of your body and you explain it to the pharmacist and they prescribe you a specific pill or a specific drug, then they've created value for you, because they have the critical information to know what drug has to be used to solve the problem you've got. But the other thing about these pills, like painkillers, is it's taken 100 plus years of pharmaceutical research and development to basically package them into a little white pill you can take and remove all your problems in 5 minutes. That sounds like a drug. I don't mean it in like a recreational way, all right? But this is critical information. The companies that make these painkillers spend millions, billions of dollars and hundreds of years developing these drugs. And so that's like, the drug can't exist without the critical information that gives assent to it existing in the first place. And so the value is created really at this level to create the product. Like products aren't value, it's the process that, well, they are actually. I'm not going to overcomplicate it. Solution, small white pill taken with water, removing pain, and it might take 30 minutes. Now, let's test this idea even more, because trust me, I've spent more than a week on this video alone, right? And I've really, really battled this idea. I've pulled it apart, I've questioned it, I've really tried to just ensure that this thing is first principled, and it is. So let's say a keyboard or a mouse or a monitor. Like you might be looking at your desk or thinking about something like, how on earth does buying a monitor or a keyboard or a mouse or something so trivial, like how does buying pieces of plastic that have utility for work in any way, shape or form alleviate pain and create value? Well, maybe your problem is you're working too slowly. You have inefficient work, and maybe you're hunched over a laptop all day. And the pain you have as a result of these things is your business isn't growing and you're working too slowly and you're not being productive or as productive as your friends, and you have some back pain. So like, think about it. Why would you buy a keyboard? Like, why? What problem does that thing solve? What pain does it alleviate? Well, I don't know if you've ever tried to spend too much, like typing on an actual MacBook, like that thing sucks to type on. It's fine for like an hour or two, but if you're working 12 hours a day, 6 days a week on something very important, and you're hunched over this little laptop with your elbows digging into your hips, you know, there's a funny image for you. I'm literally doing it right now. With your elbows digging into your hips, hunched over this tiny little screen, like it is not good. It doesn't feel good. It's like, it's an uncomfortable position to be in. And so what we do is we buy a keyboard and a mouse and a monitor as like the office setup, so that the screen is bigger, so you can look up and it's actually like, you know, you can see more things and you can add more things to your screen so you can be more productive. The keyboard allows you to basically type with open arms, and you know, you can rest your wrists on the desk, and the mouse allows you to move faster and it's ergonomic. Like, these things do alleviate pain. But then it's like, well, how is a keyboard critical information? It's kind of not, but you need critical information to build a keyboard, because you need technical engineering skills required to make and distribute the devices. So you see where I'm coming from here. Everything you buy, I don't care if you buy your grandmother flowers, you know, you alleviate pain in some way, shape or form. You know, you make yourself feel better. Like, oh, I feel sad that my grandmother is lonely and that no one buys her flowers. You go and buy her flowers, you give her the flowers, you've alleviated your pain. And the critical information required to do that was the understanding of what to do to make your grandmother happier. Okay? or what flowers to buy, or what flowers she likes, or what supermarket is closest by, you know. What about an iPhone? Well, let's say that your old phone breaks and you're disconnected from the world. And the pain you have is that there's anxiety, because if there's an emergency, you can't contact anyone. Like, how is an iPhone information? Well, it is. It's like it's a piece of glass that fits in your pocket that allows you to communicate with anyone, anytime, anywhere, which is kind of insane. And the critical information required to give you an iPhone is how to build a damn company that makes an iPhone en masse. Like, I mean, my goodness, is that some critical information to have to like find and develop? You know, it's like I said, like, it's kind of like the same thing with the banana example. Like, you're hungry, there's the problem. Banana, solution. A banana's not information, but it requires critical information to build. And sorry, to get to you on a supermarket shelf. And the reason that the person who sells you the banana makes money is because they know how to facilitate the A to Z process of getting it to you. And that's the critical information. That's the same thing as the iPhone. So, you know, sometimes you can actually, like, this is what we're going to do, and this is what I'm going to teach you to do. Like, we are actually selling information as a consultant. So, you know, if for example, like, you know, you're, let's say that you're broke, you know, and you haven't got any money, and I give you a course on how to make money. Like, I'm giving you the information, I'm giving you the critical information, but I still had to have the critical information to build the thing. Anyway, you get my point. So you can read through these examples here. I won't bore you too much with all of them, but I will give you some pretty funny ones, I think, as well. I'm just wanna, yeah, okay. Let me just bring this up. Okay. So Amazon, right? What the hell? How does Amazon create value? Well, as a human, I want everything as cheap as possible right now. And the pain I have is that I'm annoyed that my last delivery took 2 weeks. And I'm annoyed it was expensive and it came in one color. You know, I wanted to buy it in red, but it was only available in black. Well, Amazon has built a company with the cheapest products, with the most variety and the fastest shipping times. And doing these three things, that takes a lot of damn critical information. So Amazon's product, because Amazon doesn't sell anything. I mean, they have like Amazon Essentials and their own products, but like Amazon isn't really like a product company. It's a service. Amazon's a service. And the service that you're buying when you buy from Amazon is the cheapest products with the widest range and the fastest shipping times. Okay? And that's how this works. I'll give you another example. Fridge magnet. How the hell is a fridge magnet a pain alleviation mechanism? Well, recently my friend asked me to get a fridge magnet for them on my last holiday, and me being me, I forgot. This is a true story. So the pain that I was in, albeit this isn't a huge amount of pain. I'm not like leg broken, like dying of terminal illness level pain here. Like, I'm not. But still, my friend is disappointed a little bit, and I need to make up for this because I don't like disappointing my friends. My friends they're not having like an existential, like, suicidal crisis because I didn't buy them a fridge magnet. But there's still this sort of unwritten, like, dude, I asked you to get me a fridge magnet and you didn't, and you said you would, so I'm a little bit annoyed. And the pain I'm experiencing here is like breaking my word, like, oh shit, I did promise you. So, you know, the critical information, like, however the hell you make a fridge magnet. I don't know how you make a fridge magnet, so I'm going to go and buy a fridge magnet from someone who knows how to make one. It's the same thing with an iPhone. Like, do you know how to build an iPhone? No? Well, then you're going to go and buy it from someone who does. Same thing with buying a banana. Do you know how to plant, farm, harvest, store, and, you know, transport a banana? Well, you probably don't. So you're going to go and buy it from someone who has the information available and is applying that information to bring you the solution. Okay? And, you know, then I bought the fridge magnet. The solution is some tiny, shiny piece of PVC that my weird friend finds aesthetically pleasing. And if you're wondering, I got it from Croatia. Which you're probably not, you probably don't care. And the time is obviously immediate. So what about houseplants? Well, I've got an office in Dubai, and when I moved in, it felt bare and clinical and boring. You know, like I was kind of like, oh, this thing kind of sucks, right? So the problem is my new office feels bare. The pain is I didn't really feel comfortable in my office. It felt like I was in some sort of hospital waiting room. So once again, like, do I know how to like import houseplant seeds and grow them? And, do I know what to feed them and what temperatures? Like, no, I don't. I don't know how to do that, right? So I'm going to go and buy these houseplants from someone who knows how to do these things. And then the solution is that they came and they potted them up for me and they were already grown. And now they're in my office. And now I'm no longer in this pain. And so I've associated the houseplants and the company that brought them to me with the alleviation of a slight amount of suffering and pain. And I paid proportionally to what I think it was worth. Like, this is another thing you need to understand. People will pay any amount of money. Like, they will pay in proportion to the pain, if that makes sense. So, like, I might buy a houseplant for, like, I don't know, like $40, which is not a large amount of money. Because the pain I have of not having a houseplant is not that great. But let's say that I had a terminal illness and a company came to me and said, hey, here's one pill you can take. Like, let's say this terminal illness was literally going to kill me in a year. That's a lot of pain. That is one of the most, I was going to say one of the most painful things you can go through. There might be some more painful things than that. But, it's very, very, very painful. My pain is off the scale. And so I'd pay everything I have in my bank account. I'd pay tens of millions of dollars for that pill. And you would do the same. You'd pay everything you had. If you had a child who was going to die tomorrow and someone came to you and said, hey, I can stop that from happening, you'd give them everything you had. So because of the value association, because that person is alleviating so much pain from your life that of course you're going to give them everything. So this is why when we're building our businesses and we're trying to create value, that we need to find a very painful problem that your niche has, or that people in your niche share. Because, I don't know any billion-dollar houseplant companies. Maybe they exist, I don't know. But you get my point, right? So Google search, the problem is it takes ages. Like, this is a problem I have, right? So when I'm reading, as I do a lot, I come across new words. And one way to solve this problem is, to use like a dictionary. And it takes ages. Like, physical dictionaries, they suck and, they waste my time. Like, I've got to open this thing and then I've got to find this word and it takes way too long. So, I want the information right now, but I don't know how to get it. So what I do is I go to Google, okay? And, I'm going to Google, the specific word, and, that's pretty cool. But I don't know how to build Google, so I go to them, So, how do you build a business that makes all the information in the world available at one click? Well, that's just Google, right? And that's a pretty impressive thing to build. So the solution is a search bar for any definition available to me at a moment's notice any time. And if I'm reading on my Kindle now, I can highlight a word on my Kindle and it will give me the definition instantaneously. So that's just some pretty strong pain alleviation. I'd buy a Kindle specifically for that so that I don't have to open up Google to, but that's just me being me. Louis Vuitton t-shirt, right? God forbid one of these things, right? But, a Louis Vuitton t-shirt. How on earth does a Louis Vuitton t-shirt alleviate pain and add value? It's a piece of fabric with two letters on it. Like, what the hell? Well, let's say that I've worked hard and I'm rich, but no one knows. And let's say the pain that I'm feeling as a result of this problem is that I don't get enough status or recognition or approval for my hard work. I'm basically insecure. And I'm not saying that people that wear Louis Vuitton t-shirts are insecure. I'm just saying this is one example or one scenario, right? So, okay, I don't have enough status, or I don't feel that what I'm presenting to the world is indicative of the amount of work that I've put in and the amount of value I've created in the universe. And I want people to know about it. Well, okay, I'm going to go and buy a Louis Vuitton t-shirt. Because if I just create my own t-shirt, people are probably going to think that there's something wrong with me, right? So the critical information behind the Louis Vuitton t-shirt is, Bernard Arnault, he's the guy that has all these luxury brands or owns them. How do you build a company, or how do you build a brand that associates wealth with cotton? That's not an easy thing to do. So you go to Louis Vuitton, maybe you don't, I personally don't, but some people go to Louis Vuitton and they buy their things because they don't know how to do this. They don't know how to create a brand that associates wealth with cotton. So they go to someone that can do it, and then they alleviate their pain through that purchase. And this is why luxury brands are so profitable and they make so much damn money. Because the more you spend, the more association between wealth and, you know, and therefore the more pain is alleviated. So I'm just going to delete the water example because that's a pretty obvious one. I think you get the point. Let's just come do this. Okay. Yeah, where were we? Actually, kind of just editing this in live time, which is probably not the most professional thing to do. But I want to make sure that this is formatted properly for you guys. So let's do this. So what about this program, right? Here we go. I'm nearly there. Bear with me. Okay, I think we're good. Yeah, we're good. Okay, so this program, you know, let's say that right now you're unsuccessful and broke. And the result of being unsuccessful and broke is some pain, which could be I can't take my girlfriend out for dinner and I can't take care of my family. I mean, God damn it, those things are pretty damn painful. So the critical information that you need is how to start a business with no cost and get clients as soon as possible. But chances are is you don't know how to do this, so you come to me or you come to someone that does. And my job is to provide you with the critical information or to build a program like this using critical information that you can then, you know, watch and consume and then implement and then, you know, basically become successful. And then you can take your girlfriend out for dinner and you can take care of your family and you're no longer in this pain. And if this program does that for you, which it will, you will in turn associate value with it. And as a result of that, you'll be, you know, you'll pay me money. Or maybe you won't, I don't know. Easy Grow. So Easy Grow is the program beyond this one. This is our flagship program that we use. I mean, it's if you think that this program's good after a while, I mean, my goodness, wait till you get to Easy Grow. But Easy Grow is basically the place that you go after you've started the consulting business. So like if you want to scale it and you want to grow it, then Easy Grow is where you go to do that. And if you're ever interested in this, by the way, you can, there's going to be there'll be a link in the community somewhere, probably on the right-hand side of the school group, but you'll be able to find it. There's no problem. So Easy Grow. So let's say that you've started your business with this program, and let's say you've got it off the ground. And let's say you've got a couple of clients and you've started making some money online. And you're like, oh, God damn, this thing works. But let's say that you don't know how to grow or scale. You don't know how to build systems or, you know, infrastructure. You don't know how to hire people. You don't know how to, you know, your sales script needs some work. Let's just say there's a lot of problems you're going to have that come with starting this business, but becoming moderately successful, but not growing. Well, maybe you started this business and got it off the ground, but let's say that you still can't afford a Louis Vuitton t-shirt. You know, let's say you want one of these, but you can't afford it. You know, or you can afford to take your girlfriend to dinner, but not to like a really fancy restaurant. Still painful, right? So the critical information that you need to solve this problem is how to get clients consistently and drastically improve your product. So that's what you need to do to grow and scale. And so, you know, you might buy Easy Grow, or you should buy Easy Grow if you're in that position. And then you're going to watch and apply some videos for a few months. And, you know, it might take you 6 to 12 months before you start getting results. So same thing with this program. It might take you 6 to 12 months. That's the expectation, okay? So, you know, every single product, and these are just a few examples, okay? But every single product that you've ever purchased ever, and I mean this, has come as a result of you trying to solve a problem to alleviate pain. Like, it really isn't any other way. You point to me that anything you've ever bought and you will find this to be true. You point to me anything anyone's ever bought ever and this will be true. And it will be true at least 99.999% of the time. Like I'm looking outside right now and I can see 2 sun loungers right on the beach. I'm on the Palm in Dubai. And I can see these 2 sun loungers, okay? Now, why did I buy those sun loungers? Well, I have guests come to my house and they want to sunbathe. And if those guests have to lie on the floor to sunbathe, then that's kind of embarrassing for me and that makes me feel some small amount of pain. It's not that painful, it doesn't hurt that much, but the pain still exists, that psychological discomfort, that phenomenon of, you know, micro suffering is still manifesting in my brain. And so I bought these sun loungers and I don't know, they were like $40 each or something, they $50 each, $30, I don't care. They weren't expensive is the point. And so, you know, you pay for solutions in proportion to the size of the problem. Like if you're in the desert and you're thirsty and you're literally dying of thirst and someone brings you a nice old bottle of San Pellegrino, I mean, you'd pay thousands of dollars for that bottle because you're in so much pain. But if you're typically hydrated in your day-to-day life and someone offers you a bottle of San Pellegrino for $5, you're going to say no because you don't need to spend $5 to be hydrated because you already are. Does that make sense? So, anything you look at, you will find this to be true. And this is why critical information is the secret to making money. And as critical information, this can either be the information required to build the product that creates the value, or it can be the information that you actually give to someone, like a book, for example. But really, you still need the critical information to build it, or write it. So there you go. So there are a ton of problems and pains that these products solve and alleviate. So, for example, with Google search, Google doesn't just exist to find the definitions of words. Houseplants, they don't exist just to make your office feel bare. Maybe the problem you have is that, the air in your bedroom feels stale and you want to buy, God knows why that would happen to you, but I'm not going to ask questions. But let's say the room in your bedroom, the air in your bedroom feels stale, and that's a problem. And the pain is obviously you're breathing in this stale, nasty air. So what you do is you buy some house plants to, cleanse the air or whatever the hell they do. And that might be another problem that house plants solve. Or, another problem that fridge magnets might solve is you might have a fridge that reflects light. And every time you walk in the room, the light bounces off the damn thing and it blinds you. And so you go and buy a fridge magnet to put over the point at which the light bounces on it at 3 p.m. And it's these everywhere, you'll find it. So I'm going to move on as to not bore you, but that's the point. So, with the iPhone thing, you might buy an iPhone for Apple CarPlay because your car has Apple CarPlay and it annoys you that you don't use it. Or it might be, you might buy the iPhone for the aesthetics because you don't like the way an Android looks. Or you might buy it because all your friends have one. There's lots of reasons and there's lots of pain points that a lot of these different products address and solve. Okay. So, in summary, the product or solution is what value is associated with. This is what people are exchanging their money for. However, products cannot exist without the critical information required to make them. This is what we are really buying. All financial transactions exist to find solutions to problems that cause pain, and these solutions manifest as products, which could be an iPhone or this program or a plant or a sandwich or a speaker or a headphone stand or a phone charging cable or a water filter, anything. But without the critical information required to build or source these products, no value can be created. So the real key to making money is critical information. And critical information, once again, is the right information required to solve the problem. Okay? So, let's say that your problem is that you love swimming and you can't swim in your house. So you go and you buy a membership at the local leisure centre that has a swimming pool. Because you don't have the critical information to, build your own swimming pool in your house. Or maybe you don't have the critical information to buy a house big enough to have a swimming pool in it. So you go to some place that has got the critical information to actually build the pool and host it and make a business out of it. Okay? It exists everywhere. So now that you understand the sort of root thing of here, we're going to get into critical information. And I hope your mind's blown. I hope this is bringing some clarity. I hope this is making sense to you. But now what we're going to do is we're going to understand the nature of critical information, how we find it, how we apply it, and with a bit of luck, this should also blow your mind. So understanding the nature of critical information is easier with a visual. So the first thing you need to understand, and I want you to write this down because this is very important. You should be writing everything down that I'm saying, well, not everything, because I am quite verbose, as you can tell, but you should be writing a lot of things down. Critical information is a tool. Information is a tool used to solve a problem, okay? And what we can do is we can visualize the usage of critical information and the application of critical information to solve a problem in the same way that a lock and a key system would work. So, you've probably got a lock on your house and you've probably got a key that lets you into that lock. And inside of that lock on your door in your house is basically a combination, a set of pins. And your key will have a jagged surface. And what that key will do is, if it's the key to the lock, is it will fit in the lock and it will turn and open the lock. And if you try any other key in that lock, hopefully, if you've bought a good lock, it won't open. So you need the key to open the lock. And so I'm explaining this because this is how you can understand the application of information to solve a problem. So here we have the mechanism found inside of a lock, padlock, door lock, etc. Most basic locks work with a set of pins, as you can see here, that are lined up to form a unique surface pattern required to unlock it. So, like there'll be these pins, they'll be metal pins, or, I don't know really what they are, but they'll set like a surface pattern. And then you have the key, and the key required that unlocks the lock has to fit the lock. So the key will have a jagged surface, and it will be designed to match that of the pattern set by the lock pins inside. And if the key fits, the key can be turned to unlock the mechanism. So you can sort of see this here. We've got this key, and it's got a jagged surface where it's sort of cut in this sort of jagged way. And the jaggedness fits the surface of these pins, because the pins are put in different lengths, okay? And so if the key wants to unlock the lock, it has to fit the lock. And understanding this example, we can understand the pattern of pins as the problem, okay? This is where it gets kind of interesting. And we can understand the key is the solution. Then basically what this means is the way the key is cut, or the surface of the key, is critical information. So using this metaphorical example, this should solidify the point I'm making here. So in life, you have a problem. Maybe you're broke. Maybe you want a swimming pool. Maybe your daughter, doesn't have the coloring book she wants. Maybe you're very ill. Maybe you've got, maybe your family, there's something wrong with your family. Maybe there's anything. You have a problem, okay? And the problem in life is represented by these pins. It's a very specific problem. It has very specific conditions, and it looks and acts in a certain way. And what your job in life really is, at first principle, is finding the solution to this problem. And so what you're going to do is you understand your problem in depth and detail, and using your understanding of that problem, you will craft a solution that, if applied, will solve it. And so, if you're a locksmith and you want to create a key, you don't just create a key. You start by looking at the lock, and then you create the key. And so the problem is, the solution is born out of the problem, okay? And what you're going to do to find this solution is look for critical information, because the critical information is the thing that, you're going to use to build the solution. Like, for example, let's just use this example of a lock. Let's say that you lock yourself out of your house, and, you need to get into your house. And you go to a locksmith and say, I can't get in my house. I lost my key. My dog ate it. Hopefully you're not feeding your key to your dog, but let's say your dog ate your key, right? Then the locksmith's going to come to your house, and then they're going to look for critical information. And the critical information is the pattern, of the pins. And then they're going to go home, or they're going to go back to the shop. They'll create the key, and they'll cut it, and then they'll give you the key, and then bang. You've unlocked your door. So the pins set the conditions for what sort of key is required to match them. The key is then designed according to the pins to match, and the cut of the key is derived from the pattern of the pins. And think, if you're designing a key to open a lock, it's only possible if you start with a lock. And this is called inversion. So the next thing you might be wondering is okay, well, if I need to solve a problem to create value, to alleviate pain, to make money, or if I need to solve a problem to alleviate pain, to create value, how do I know what problem to solve? How do I find a problem? How do I know what solution to provide? And how do I know what to give people? How do I know what solution to make, or what critical information to look for? Well, you start with the problem. If you want to make a key, you start with the lock. If you make a key and then you make a lock, the chances are is the key's not going to unlock the lock. Okay, so this is called inversion. So let's say that someone has, I'm going to give you this locksmith example again. So let's say someone has a problem. And that problem is that their door is locked and they've lost their key because their dog ate the key, right? Once again, probably shouldn't have happened, but no one's perfect. They are in pain because they cannot enter their home, so they go to a locksmith. Now, the lock is the problem. The locksmith makes a key according to the lock and sells it to the person. If the key fits the lock and opens it, the key is the solution. Opening the lock creates value, problem solved, pain alleviated. The person then begins to associate value with the key and lets the locksmith keep their money. And the same thing is true with any solution anywhere. The key, this is not a pun not intended, the key to finding the right critical information to solve a problem lies in the problem that the critical information is required to solve. So if you want to know what to look for, you start with the problem. And the problem sets the conditions for what information is needed, so we must always start here when creating a solution, okay? And that's it. So once again, the pins here in the lock represent the problem. The key represents the solution, and the specific way the key is cut represents the critical information. And you can kind of visualize it like this. Now, there's another example I can give you here, another sort of metaphor to make this abstraction concrete, is creating a movie. And Disney really understands this. So without getting into too much detail here, there is something called the collective unconscious. The collective unconscious is basically the collective unconscious mind of humanity. So everyone has an unconscious mind, and there's this thing called the collective unconscious, which is a theory that everyone's unconscious mind were kind of related and interconnected. And the unconscious mind of the human condition is riveted and engaged by things called archetypes. So an archetype is basically a way that reality manifests to us that we find compelling, engaging, and riveting, right? So, like, for example, like watching the Olympics. Why do we do that? That's a bit strange, isn't it? Like just watching someone just throw themselves around. Well, what you're doing when you watch sport or when you watch the Olympic, it's very archetypal. Because what you're doing is you're watching someone who's gone through like lots of practice and lots of training to perform incredible feats of athletic endeavor. And, you know, we've evolved to appreciate that because of the hunter-gatherer nature of our evolution. And so, you know, the people that would have been really fit and able to do these incredible athletic feats would have naturally had status, and they would have naturally had, you know, they would have naturally been in the higher echelons of tribal society because they would have been more competent and capable when it comes to hunting and gathering and stuff like that. And so, you know, one of the psychological theories behind why we're so riveted by sports and athletic competence is because it signals an archetype of, you know, this person might help me get some food, right? Now, there's lots of theories, but I mean, you get the point. So let me give you an example. So an example of an archetype is the hero's journey, okay? Now, the hero's journey is a narrative framework whereby the protagonist of the story, so the main character, embarks on an adventure, and on that adventure, they face challenges and they undergo transformation. Ultimately, they return home changed, having learned something new and having come back and, you know, fixed the problem. You know, George and the Dragon, for example, you know, the hero's journey. There's a guy, there's a woman that gets taken and she's being protected by a dragon. So the guy, well, not protected, but she's being like guarded by a dragon. The guy has to leave, and then he has to leave the comfort of his hometown, face some real damn challenges, which is slaying a dragon, and then he gets the girl, right? Now, you could argue that's sexist, but I'm just telling you the story, right? Now, this journey typically involves stages like the call to adventure, overcoming trials, and the returning with newfound wisdom or power. Now, you might be thinking, what the hell are you talking about, Charlie? Well, the hero's journey is the underpinning narrative of nearly any big action or adventure movie made ever. So, you know, Harry Potter, for example, like, or, you know, any action movie, like even bloody, I don't know, Moana from Disney. Like, you know, there's the hero's journey. She's at home on her island, and, you know, she has to like leave the comfort of the island and face all these challenges and learn some things, and then she has to come back to her island and make life a little bit better for everyone because of what she learned. Any big action movie or adventure movie ever made follows the hero's journey. Okay, Interstellar is another example. Dark Knight Rises. I mean, actually, that's not. I mean, yeah, it is, to be fair. Anyway, I'm digressing. But basically, the point I'm making with these archetypes is companies like Disney, they understand archetypes. They understand the unconscious mind and what rivets the mind. The mind is kind of like, you know, a set of pins. There's things that you can put in front of it that compel it to spend hours watching something, right? So when making and scripting movies and stories, big media companies like Disney will always make them around the archetypes that we as a species are most engaged by. The mind is the lock and the movie is the key. And so if you want to make a good movie, you want to make a good action movie, for example, you don't just make a movie, you don't just make it up. You start with a framework and a structure that you know will compel someone to watch. It's the same thing if like with Mr. Beast and his YouTube videos. Like Mr. Beast, he doesn't just come up with these random, crazy, weird YouTube video ideas. He starts by asking himself, like, what would someone want to watch? And then he'll try to ideate videos around that idea. And the same thing is true with creating a business and creating value. You don't just come up with some random idea in the shower for a business. That is not how it works. You find a group of people, you isolate a problem, and from those people and their problem, you find a solution, and the solution becomes the product. You need to get rid of this idea that you need to have some random idea to start a business. Every single business ever made was born out of this phenomenon, which is, here's a problem. Don't really like this problem. Oh, I'll just solve it. And then you get paid to solve it. This is how Airbnb started. Like Airbnb started because there was like some concerts, and like the founders of Airbnb were like, I want to go to this concert, but I don't want to go to a hotel because I hate hotels. So like, let me just try and like see if someone wants to sleep on my couch. And then I don't know the exact story, but someone did. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, this is pretty cool. What if I charge them? And now you've got like, $10 billion or whatever it is valuation. So the point I'm making is you don't need an idea. You just need to find a problem, and then you need to find the critical information required to solve that problem. And in essence, what you're doing is you're selling the critical information to the person. And if you're not selling the critical information to them, you're selling the product that manifests and is built as a result of you having found that critical information. Okay? Now, let's talk about bending reality. We're really leaping through the old axioms here, aren't we? But the cool thing is that when you understand this, and like if this is really I'm hoping this is sinking in, like you can literally bend reality to your will. If you have the right information, you can bend reality to your will. You can do anything. If it's within the laws of physics and nature, anything is possible. And I truly mean that. So let's have a look at this. How do we bend reality? How do we use information, and how do we use our understanding of problems and solutions and value to bend reality? Well, really, what does bending reality mean? Well, this just means to make a change. So if your current reality is that you are broke and poor, then you need to bend your reality so that you are a millionaire and you're rich. And you can literally change the state of the world and the state of reality by finding the right information and applying that information. Like that's it. That's how you change anything ever. Okay? It comes back, all the way up here to this diagram. Okay? Thesis, current state of reality. Antithesis, critical information. The combination of these two things with time creates a new reality. You can change the world. You can change your entire life with information. It's a wonderful thing to be able to do, and I'm so thrilled and excited to, share it with you over the next few weeks or few months with this program. So, in life, every human has a current situation and a desired situation. You do, your customers do, everyone does. This exists for nearly every facet of existence. Now, we all have a current situation for our wealth, for our health, for our family, for our relationships, for our business. And naturally, we have a desired situation for these things too. So it doesn't matter how wealthy you are, or how healthy you are, or how good your family relationships are, or how good your business is, or how good anything is, things can always be better. And it doesn't matter how good something's going for you, it can always be better. Like, it doesn't matter how many books I read, I'm never going to feel smart enough. Like, I've read quite a lot of books for a man of 26. And like, you could argue that there's some level of intelligence in between my ears, but it's nowhere near enough, right? I'm nowhere near smart enough. I don't know anything. I don't really know anything in the scheme of things. I know enough just to help like one little corner of the world solve a specific problem, but I'm not by any stretch of the imagination like smart or like extremely intelligent. And that's not a virtue signal. That's just the truth. Because the more you learn, the more you realize you don't, like the more you start to learn, the more you realize there is to learn. And so, you have a current situation with everything. And when you have a current situation, you will naturally have a desired situation as well, because you want things to be better. Doesn't matter if I've read 3,000 books. I could always read 3,001, right? So between these two states lies a gap. And this is visualized over here. So every purchase we make ever is hinged on the idea of bridging this gap from current painful state to painless desired state. So what I just, however long this has been, the last hour or two of information can be surmised into this diagram here, where, value is really just going from where we are right now to where we want to be. And there's a gap between these two states. And, your job as a consultant is to bridge this gap for people. And what I'm doing right now with this information is bridging this gap for you. If your current situation is you don't know how money works, and your desired situation is you want to know how money works, and there's a gap between these two things, well, now you should know how money works. And I've just created value for you by bridging this gap. And so, for example, right now, your current financial situation might be that you're broke. And your desired situation is probably going to be that you're rich. And this is quantified by like millionaire or 10K a month, whatever. And between these two states is a gap. And my job with this program is to bridge this gap. So when I bridge this gap, or when you bridge this gap for someone else, we drive positive change in your life or someone else's life. And this is how we create value, okay? Now, I'm going to show you how to start a business online. And this business is going to be a vehicle for your clients, or your market, basically, to bridge the gap between their current situation and desired situation. So this applies to your life, but to your clients' lives. So your clients have their current situation, which is their reality with the problem they have, and they have a desired situation, which is a reality with the solution, without the problem, without the pain. And between the state of current and desired is a gap, and your job as a consultant is to bridge the gap. And we bridge the gap using critical information. Now, it does not matter what niche you pick, or what service you pick, or what solution you pick to sell. What you sell boils down to this. This is what you sell. You sell a transformation between states. You sell change. Let that sink in for a second. You don't sell product, you sell change. Anything you buy ever is to take you from a painful current situation to a painless desired situation, or with less pain. Nothing's painless, right? And so what you're doing when you sell someone something, or when you make money from selling something to someone, is you're helping them make a change. It's that simple, Like if you're really thirsty and I sell you a bottle of water, I've taken you from a current painful situation to a less painful desired situation, and according to the level of pain you have, you will pay me accordingly for that. And all I've done is I've sold you change, okay? I've sold you a transformation. This program is not a program. It's a vehicle for you to go from your current situation to your desired situation. Ask yourself, ask yourself now, why did you start this program? Why are you in here? Is it because you want to hear some random British dude with a questionable hairline try and make some sense of the world for hours on end? Or is it because you want to go from where you are now to where you want to be? Well, of course it's the latter, right? Unless you're weirdly interested in me, which I wouldn't advise you be. But you sell change, okay? Now, the thing is but how? How do we bridge this gap? How do we use critical information to do this? How do we go out and find, I'm getting to the bottom of things here, and I'm sure this is unfolding and making sense to you as we go now, but we know that the key is critical information, but how do we get it? How do we find it? How do we solve it? How do we use it? How do we apply it? Well, let me show you how to bend reality as you know it to your will. Now, as we proceed here, I want you to bear in mind that the word you and your client or market are interchangeable. So I'm talking about human beings in here. So don't make the mistake of watching this video and thinking it's all about you, because it is all about you. But what I'm about to tell you is how you're going to help your clients. And as a result of helping your clients, you're going to make money. They're going to pay you to add value. So this is how you can change your life, but also this is how you can change your clients' lives, which will change your life in the process. Because if you want to change your life, you just have to change a lot of other people's lives. That's a pretty important thing to think about, right? That's a pretty damn solid idea. If you want to change your life and see positive impact and transformation in your financial situation, then you have to go out in the world and change other people's lives for the better. And you don't have to change their lives financially. You just have to solve a problem for them. And that will solve your problem of not having enough money. So I'm going to explain some extremely weird and deep and abstract concepts in a second here. And it's easy for you to gauge how these things work if I'm using you as an example. But I want you to remember that everything that you learn here is designed to help you understand not only how you can change your life, but how you can change others' lives, which is basically business in a nutshell. So, all right, here's you, okay? And I'm sure that your eyeball is a little bit higher up and your lips are not, I'm sure your lips are a little bit more symmetrical to your face. And I'm sure you don't have a nose down the bottom of your face, but this is you, okay? You have a body, which is represented by this stick figure, and you have a brain, which is represented by this, this brain. And you have 5 senses. So you have your sensory experience organisms. You have your sight, your eyes, you have your smell with your nose, you have your touch with your skin and your hands and everything. You have your hearing with your ears, and you have your taste with your lips. Okay? And this is how you experience the world. And then you have an imagination. So you have the ability in your mind to imagine things and, create a imaginary world in your brain. Like if I ask you right now, and I want you to do this, just to prove you have an imagination, if you shut your eyes right now, close your eyes for me, and I want you to just imagine a really big tall tree. Just a big tall tree. Just imagine a field, an empty field or an empty piece of land, and I want you to imagine a really big tree. And now I want you to make the tree bright yellow. I want you to give it a bright yellow, stalk, or make the wood bright yellow, and then make the leaves in the tree purple. Right? You've just used your imagination. Congratulations. You've imagined something in your mind that doesn't naturally manifest in the physical world. And we use our imagination for all sorts of reasons, but we'll get into this, okay? Now, using these things, using your sight, smell, touch, hearing, taste, imagination, brain and body, this is really all you've got to work with. As a human being, there ain't much more you've got than this. Yeah, you've got your family, you've got a driver's license and stuff, but in terms of tools that you've actually got to bend reality to your will and change the world, you've only really got these things. So using these things, you're able to bend reality to your will and completely change the way the world manifests itself to you. So if all you've ever known is financial restriction, and if all you've ever known is a bad life and suffering and stuff like that, and you've only ever known unhappiness and depression and anxiety, first of all, I'm sorry about that, and that really sucks. But second of all, it doesn't have to be that way. Using your brain and your 5 senses and your imagination and your body and you can change it, and it's possible. So let's explore how. This yellow circle represents your current state of reality. And this embodies every area of your existence: wealth, health, family, relationships, etc. This is your subjective experience and what you think is true. So your reality, reality is a goddamn difficult thing to define, man. You have your current reality, and that is just how the world is manifesting to you. It is essentially what is subjectively true to you. And you have your current reality, which could be that you are broke. I know I keep using the broke example, but it's just the easiest one that's probably top of mind for everyone watching this. You have your current reality, and it's not just about finance and being broke. It's also everything that embodies your entire existence. And the cool thing about humans and us is that everyone has a different current reality. The truth is kind of non-existent in certain elements. That's a dangerous thing to say. That borders on communism. I don't mean it like that. But my point is that your subjective experience and what you think is true is going to be entirely different to me. And it's going to be entirely different to the next person. And so my reality and my subjective experience and what I believe to be true about the world in the fragment of finance is that wealth is that money is easy to come by, and that money is easy to make, and that being rich is just a state and it's just possible. And that's my reality, and that is literally how the world manifests to me. But to you, it could be the polar opposite. It's the same thing as, you could have someone whose reality is that their family is broken, and the reality they experience and their subjective experience and what they think is true is that families are screwed and parents are bad, and any sort of familial interaction is always going to be terrible. But there might be somebody else, I'm very fortunate with this, where I've got a really strong, fantastic family and I love my family. And so reality manifests to me as, in the family aspect, as something that's good and proper and fun and great. And so every single facet of your life manifests to you in its own unique way. And that's what creates what we call experience and reality. And so what we've got here is you, right, with your brain, and you can sort of see this here if I zoom in slightly. Okay, you've got you here, and inside of you, you've got your body, you've got your brain, and you've got your 5 senses and your imagination. Okay, and now what's going to happen is reality is going to manifest to you really through your senses, and it's going to be processed in your brain. And the yellow arrows here, they represent information. So reality manifests to us as information. Okay? Everything you perceive is information. And I'm not talking about information in terms of like, the numbers on the blackboard, or, like people, when I say information, a lot of people just denote immediately thinking about like a book, or, like a textbook, or like some words that explain something. Like, I don't mean that. What I mean, like, information is basically sensory perception. So like if right now, for example, someone knocks on my door, I've just received information through my sense of hearing. If I eat a burger and I taste the burger, I'm receiving sensory information and I'm experiencing reality through my tongue and through my mouth. If I'm fumbling through the dark, to find the bathroom at 3 a.m, and I touch the wall of the bathroom, then I'm receiving information that I'm in the bathroom. Okay, and that's once again a pretty horrific image for you to imagine, but you get the point. So reality can only be perceived by our 5 senses and imagination. So reality manifests to us through our senses, and it can also manifest to us through our imagination as well. And if you don't believe me with the imagination thing, well, you have dreams that don't make any sense whatsoever sometimes. And like also, like you can watch a movie that's completely imaginary and be emotionally moved by it, and it can manifest to you. Like, when you watch a movie and it's like you're in the camera. Like, I have this whenever I watch a good movie, like Interstellar is a primary example. The first time I watched Interstellar, because if I'm watching a movie, I'm like in the damn movie, right? And I watched it, and you forget where you are, and it's like your experience, like you've got your headphones on, or you're listening to the sounds, and you've got your visuals, and like it's like you're completely encapsulated in that movie, and temporarily it becomes your reality, and you're using your imagination, kind of, because sometimes movies, they're not like real, and so that's how reality manifests to you. So this is a complicated thing to explain, so please bear with me as I do. But the yellow circle represents your current reality, and the yellow arrows represent information coming to you to manifest that reality. Okay? So anything you ever experience is information processed by your sensory organs. You can't argue otherwise. Even if you think you've seen a ghost. What did I just say? You've seen a ghost, right? That's how if your reality is that ghosts are real and that spirits are real, then then you're going to receive information that confirms that. Okay? And you're going to see things and hear things and blah blah blah. Now, the information that reality sends to us, let's bring this up here, is received by our 5 senses and processed in our brains. And this is how the world manifests to us. So the only way that the world manifests to us, the only way reality exists, is information being processed by our 5 senses in our brains. We hallucinate reality using our sensory experience. That's kind of a scary thing to think, but it's true. And our reality is fundamentally limited and constrained to our immediate sensory experiences. We believe our reality to be true and right because it's all we've ever known. The truth is subjective. Now, there is an objective truth when it comes to certain things, but when it comes to sensory experience and the way the world works and manifests to us, this is how it works. We each have our own truth in this element. Now, I'm not saying that the truth doesn't exist, because that is an incredibly dangerous statement to make. It definitely does. But in terms of how reality manifests to us, like if you're poor and broke right now, and that's what's true for your existence, like it might not be what is true for somebody else who's rich, but like, it's true for you right now. Fortunately enough, you can change it. But anyway, we are biased to believe that what we know is right. So, here we have information, could be like hot or cold, or, a thought or an imagination, or a sound or some food or some light or a bad smell. It goes into your brain through your senses, and then from that you manifest this thing that we know as experience. Now, we are fundamentally biased to seek information that confirms our reality, even if it isn't favorable, and brings us pain. So if your current reality is that money is hard to come by, and money doesn't grow on trees, and all these belief statements that you have, then you're going to receive information to confirm that. Okay? Now, we cling on, like for example, throughout this video, I have said making money is easy, making money is possible. There's a chance that you and your brain, you've received that information through your sensory organ of hearing and through your sight, through this video, and your brain might reject that information. You might have thought with your imagination, which is a way that reality manifests to us, you might have thought, there's no way that's true, because I know that reality isn't like that. But I hate to break it to you, mate. Your reality, I don't hate to break it. I love to break it to you. Your reality and experience does not encapsulate the entire entity of experience for humanity. It doesn't. Neither does mine. No one's does. And that means we can like chop and change between. We can literally decide to have a different reality, seek the information, the critical information required to make that change happen by processing it, by looking for it, by processing it with our 5 senses, and then applying it, and then you can change your bloody reality. Like, it's possible. And we cling on to and avoid questioning our state of reality because it's all we have to offset the chaos of life. Like, you need to have a current reality, because if you don't, like, I don't know what the hell would happen. Like, you go insane. Like, your current reality is like a life raft in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean that we're sitting in. So there is this infinite like expanse of chaos and terror, beneath us or around us. Like, there's too much to experience for us to not pick, if that makes sense. And what I mean by that is the reality is so vast, and there's so many instances and examples of the way that the world can manifest to us that we have to just pick a bloody fighter in the fight. We have to pick something. And the problem is most people's reality just manifests, like they don't make any effort to change it. So I know this is getting very abstract. I will give you some examples soon, but this is where it gets pretty damn exciting. So by now we know that this is you, and this is your current state of reality. And reality manifests to you through information received by your senses, and the information you receive is almost always going to confirm your current reality. Now, this blue circle represents your unknown reality. So believe it or not, my friend, there are, like, I hope this doesn't sound condescending, there is a whole nother world, there's a whole nother world out there. Like, there's a whole nother world out there. I had a friend I grew up in a small village in the UK, in a county called Somerset, which is in the southwest. It's kind of west of London by about 2 hours. And I had a friend who had never, ever left this village. Like, she might have gone to like a nearby town or something like that. But as far as this, obviously she's on social media, she's got the internet and stuff. But as far as she was concerned, Japan didn't even exist. Now, she's not that stupid, but I can give you a medieval example. In the medieval times in history, people thought that the world the Romans thought that the world ended at, north of Britain. They just assumed that it was just like ocean or something. And all the way throughout history, we have what we immediately know in terms of like physical geography, and then we just believe the world just shelves off. Because how could you think otherwise? Like, if you see the Atlantic Ocean and you sail for like a couple of days and there's nothing, you're thinking, right, okay, this just goes on forever. There's nothing there, right? So this blue circle here on the screen represents your unknown reality. And there is a lot of this. There's a lot of stuff that you don't know, and there's a lot of stuff that you'll go through life and never know. But if you knew everything, you'd die because you just go insane, right? So the unknown reality represents everything beyond the boundary of your immediate and familiar experiences. Right now, by watching this video, you are exploring your unknown reality because you're learning new things and you're finding out stuff that you didn't previously know that's challenging your current perception of the way the world works. So you, by watching this video in this very moment in time, are exploring unknown reality. Okay? Whenever you go to a new country, whenever you listen to a new music artist, whenever you do anything new that you've never done before, you are exploring unknown reality. Now, the cool thing about unknown reality is that it contains these little stars. The thing that's not cool about it is it contains these little warning signs. Now, the stars, they represent critical information. Information that, if found and applied to your current reality, changes it in a way that you want. Warnings represent faulty information. Because, you know, it's pretty damn risky to go out into this thing sometimes because there's information out there that, if found and applied to your current reality, makes it worse than it already is. There's a real danger to this and to not being able to think critically, because if you're looking for like information to solve, like let's say that you have a terminal illness and you need to start exploring the unknown reality of like oncology, which is like basically cancer and cures for cancer. Like there's going to be some information out there that's faulty and that's not true and that won't work. And so if you're terminally ill with cancer and you go and seek critical information that is wrong, then you're going to die. So when you go looking for critical information, you have to be extremely careful because there's information out there that's very faulty and wrong that will present itself to you as true. And it's not until you've applied it that you realize it's wrong, and then sometimes it's too late. So understand, the only way to change your life is to step into the unknown and find and apply new information using your 5 senses and brain. And this is exactly what you're doing with this program. It's what you're going to be doing with Easy Grow when you've got a few clients and you want to start scaling and growing the business. Information is the catalyst and start of change. So the point I'm making here is you have your current reality, which could be broke, poor, bad family relationships, bad health, not smart enough, like using social media, anything, I mean, literally anything you can think of, right? Your current reality could be, I don't have a swimming pool in my house. My daughter doesn't have the right coloring book. You know, and it will manifest to you in that way. So you're going to go out into the unknown, into places you've never been before, like a leisure center, and find the right swimming pool. It's a trite example, but you get the point. And so what you can do is basically take your mind and body. Sometimes it's your mind by, you might still be sat in your bedroom watching this video. So you're not going to a new location, but you're going to a new plane of reality by watching this video. Like, think about everything you've just learned in the last hour or two. Like, you've just explored you didn't know this stuff existed. Like, I've just given you critical information that you can use to solve pretty damn big problems in your life. If you knew this already, like Brownie intelligence points to you, but chances are this hadn't even crossed your mind. You probably didn't even have any inkling that this information existed before. And you found it. And now you've found it, you can apply it. And this is my point, is the information, the critical information is the antithesis to your life. It's the changing mechanism, right? And so you venture out, you look for critical information. And, unknown reality, this is a scary place to be. This is chaos. You don't want to you can't spend your entire life here because, well, what's the point in that? You want to change your life, not, the entire world, right? So sometimes your unknown reality will scream at you with signs of critical information that you need to implement. So sometimes you don't need to necessarily always go out into the dark blueness, and do the deep dive into finding something. Sometimes it will scream at you because, for example, like let's say that you watch my YouTube videos, right? And let's say that they've hopefully in some way, shape or form changed your life. And maybe they were the reason you bought this program. Like, you're on YouTube. YouTube is like a place that you go to explore unknown reality. Sometimes if you watch the same creators make the same videos, you're not exploring new reality. But like, let's say you're on YouTube and you get recommended one of my videos. That is unknown reality screaming at you saying, hey, watch this thing. It doesn't mean that it's a good or bad. It's just like, it's going to present new things to you. Like, for example, if you go to dinner with friends that you know, and the friends that you know bring 3 new people. Now, those 3 new people represent unknown reality. You've got an entire new person to understand, explore, and integrate into your life potentially. And that person could be your damn wife. And so that person represents, that person is, in essence, the critical information that you might have needed to, find love. All sorts of examples. So unknown reality will scream at you with signs of critical information sometimes you need to implement. It will be unfamiliar and you'll probably reject it at first. So I can give you a story. So the reason I'm sat here today, and the reason my life has unfolded for me to become this multi-millionaire, have this knowledge and help people, and quite frankly, I absolutely fucking love my life. I have the best time. I think it's fantastic. I love my life. But all of this happened, it didn't used to be this way, all of this happened because I saw a Tai Lopez ad on Facebook when I was, 17. I was scrolling through Facebook, being an idiot, because if you scroll through Facebook, typically that's not a very intelligent thing to do. And I saw an ad from Tai Lopez, who was an internet marketer, for those of you who aren't familiar with him. He was like the biggest internet marketer in like 2018, 2019, and like the hero in my garage guy. And Tai Lopez, he had this ad, and it was basically a house tour of his house in LA. And I was watching this house tour, and it completely blew my mind, because I was, at that point, my current reality was that it's only possible to have a house, is this massive mansion, right? I was like, in my mind, my current reality was that it's only possible to have a house like that if you're a famous actor or if you're a famous athlete. Like that was what my reality was. That's what I believed. Because the only people that I'd ever seen that are rich and successful and wealthy were famous actors or famous athletes. Because you see them on TV and stuff. And I was watching this and I was like, I don't know this guy. Like, he's not an athlete and he's not an actor. So what is he? I did some research and it turned out he was an entrepreneur. I didn't even know what it meant. I had to Google the word entrepreneur. I was like 17. I was like, I don't know what the hell an entrepreneur is. What's an entrepreneur? So I Googled it and I found out that, like, this is a person that like makes a business, and I was like, oh my God, I want to be that. And so, like, for example, Facebook, I know that I preach to not use Facebook and stuff, but it did get me started, to be fair. You need a bit of chaos. You need, like, that was the antithesis that began my entire journey. I had to Google the word. I had to be like, what the hell is this thing? I want that house, So what do I have to be to get it? And now I've literally got that, well, not that house exactly, but I could probably buy it and live there, like, it's 8 years later or whatever. But like, that was critical information. Like, I had my current reality. I was scrolling through Facebook. I was scrolling through a lot of unknown reality. And there was a little bit of critical information that I took in, and that set a chain reaction off. And now the information that manifests to me is completely different. Now, the problem is that doesn't mean you should scroll through Facebook, because it was just as likely that, I found some faulty information. Like, goddamn, I found a lot of faulty information on Facebook. So, don't think that this is like, I'm not advocating to scroll through Facebook. I'm just giving you the example of what got me started. And that might represent you, the same thing for you, as you being on YouTube and being recommended one of my videos, which got you into this program, which is, and apply 8 years of compounding and consistency to that antithesis. And I think you might be very pleasantly surprised, my friend. So let's observe an example. So let's say your current reality is that you're broke. Therefore, the information you receive in life confirms this. You get your salary every month, which is the amount you get paid. You drive the same car that, you swear to God the clutch is going to break any moment now, and, you just haven't got any money. You probably say things like, it takes money to make money, and some people are just born with it. Your belief systems and perception of reality are out of alignment with your goal, which is to be rich. All of your life, all you've ever known is broke. Your family, broke. Your friends, broke. Reality is sending sensory inputs to your brain that the world is broke, at least for you. So, the world is manifesting to you as broke. Now, obviously you have your current reality of broke, and then you have the unknown reality of, financial information and financial wisdom and the way that the economic machine works. And the star below represents the information found in this program. So obviously this would usually be littered with other stars and, like warning signs and stuff. But, in the unknown reality is this program. It exists, right? And so by watching and listening to this program, you are receiving critical information. So you can see now, you've come out into the unknown by watching this program, and you're going to take this information from this video and all the other videos, and you're going to bring it back home. You're going to bring it back to your current reality. You're going to accept it as true, and you're going to start to, behave as if it is true, and, you're going to bring it into your reality. And this critical information should be processed by your brain, judged as correct, and applied to your life. Now, with time, this changes your current reality. Because if you're broke right now, and you're receiving critical information on how to solve the problem of being broke, and you bring this into your life and you start applying that information, and that information is represented by the orange color, if you do that for long enough, well, your reality is going to become orange. You're going to become rich, okay? And with time, applying this critical information literally changes your reality. It changes the way the physical world manifests to you, and it took information for that to happen. And then after more time, what's going to happen is the information that your current reality manifests to you as will also change. So, this is a three-step process, because first of all, you have where you are, okay? You have where you are, and you start looking for ways to fix it, which is just finding the information required. You find the information, you locate it, it's out here, you think, okay, I'm going to go and get it. So you get this program and you start watching through the videos. You then bring that information home, you believe it, you start acting as if it's true, and you start acting it out and, doing the action items in the program, and, doing the work, and not giving up and sticking to it, and, carrying on and believing in the process. And then if you do that and you act as if it's true and you start doing this, then suddenly you're going to start making some money, and suddenly you're not going to be broke anymore. And then once that's happened, the entire way that all the information you receive is going to start to change. Because, if you start making money and you start making, say, 10K a month, and you start making like 6 figures and you're financially free, well, now you're going to start to spend that money on making more money, or you're going to spend that money on experiences that, you're going to start eating, maybe you go to a steakhouse and order a $100 Wagyu steak. And now you're literally receiving sensory information through your tongue that money is abundant. It's going to start to manifest in a different way. This is how you change your life with this program. And not just this program, but anything. Anything, it's all just information. And once again, this is an abstraction. It's it can be the information like a video course or like a book, but it can also be going to a specific business that already has this information and letting them do it for you, if that makes sense. And this is how you change the lives of other people. This is how you create value, and this is how you make money. And I add quite a lot of it. I've made 20, 30, 40 million dollars doing this for people, where I find someone, I find a group of people who have a current reality that they don't like. I then learn the information I need, to solve that problem for them. Then I go to them and I say, hey, what about this? And then they buy it. They buy the information from me, and then, they apply the information to their life. Then their reality changes, right? And then, here comes this. And I can show you some examples here. So let's go. I can show you some examples. So obviously we've got EasyGrow, which is the program that helps people scale. We've got hundreds of examples. God, at this point, probably more than that. Hundreds of examples of people getting. I know this seems like an ad for EasyGrow, but I want to explain this, and give you a concrete example, right? So for example, this was a recent client interview, Lewis. From zero, this is a real client interview with a real person who's been through EasyGrow, that's basically applied it. You can see him talking about it. Lewis's current reality was $0 a month. He was making nothing. And then after 6 months, he now makes $21,000 per month using EasyGrow. So Lewis was here. EasyGrow was up here. Lewis bought EasyGrow and started implementing it. And now the entire way that reality manifests to him has changed. And this isn't just EasyGrow. This could be a book, for any book or any podcast or anything like that. There's a lot of examples, Prasad here. Went from 0 to 23K a month in 2 months. Cindy was making $1,000 a month. Now she makes 340. Like these transformations that you've probably seen for our program, and there's lots of other, well, I don't know if there's lots of other good programs. I don't really look at them, but these transformations of people doing this, this is how it happens. And it doesn't have to be easy grow. Like I'm not saying like, I'm not trying to cram easy grow down your throat. That's the most immediate example I can give you without having to, go too off topic here. So you now have an understanding. So like you get it. I'm hoping you get it. And now that you have an understanding, let's define critical information. Let's get to the real, like you know this, you know what critical information is, you know how it works. Let's define it. So critical information is sensory input from reality that, if applied accurately and effectively, solves a painful problem faced by a human being, like a key in a lock. That by doing so bridges the gap between their current situation and desired situation. I want you to write this down. I want you to tattoo it on your forehead. Never forget this. Don't actually do that, by the way. Critical information is sensory input from reality that, if applied accurately and effectively, solves a painful problem faced by a human being, that by doing so bridges the gap between the current situation and desired situation. And it looks like this. Current situation, critical information, application, time, desired situation. That's it. And it takes however long it takes. So the key here is the application. Like how do we, like what the hell? Like how do we apply? Like what is application and how does this work? Like I know that it seems pretty obvious, like, oh, how do I apply information? Oh, I know, I just apply it. But I'd invite you to define application. Like how do we apply something? Like what if you have the right piece of information, like this program, for example, like how do you ensure that you're leveraging that to the best of your capability in the best and most efficient and accurate way possible? Well, let's actually talk about this. Let's talk about how to apply and how to use this information. Because, you're going to do the same thing for your clients as well. Like, you're going to pick a niche and pick a group of people, and I'm going to help you do that. You're going to pick a problem and find a problem that they suffer with. And, by doing that, you're going to then start to build a solution. And, building a solution is about finding the information that will solve that problem, making sure it's critical, and then applying it and helping them. But how? Okay? Well, you can see information as a tool. Okay? It's a tool, like a hammer, or obviously not like a hammer, but you get my point. It's a tool, which means that it has leverage. And leverage is basically, using something to get what we want. And if we want a solution, then we need to find the information. Therefore, the tool is the information. But the thing is information is only a tool if it's applied. Now, this is why you can watch this program and you can go through these videos and you can be like, yeah, fuck yeah, this makes sense. This is great. But if you don't actually do anything, then nothing's going to happen. It's almost more tragic for you to learn this stuff and not apply it than it is to not learn it at all. Because like you might as well just go back to your current situation and just not bother. Like if you're not going to do anything about it. And I know that like listening right now, like you're going to be like, yeah, I'm going to do the work, but like a lot of people don't. And it's shameful and it's embarrassing. So don't be one of those people. If I tell you to do something in this program, please do it. Don't think it's beneath you or that you don't have to. Every action item I give you in this program is designed to encourage you to apply the critical information required for you to become successful. So I need you to trust me, I need you to believe me, and I need you to do what I say. I need you to do what I say you need to do. If I tell you to write something down and you don't write it down, you need to write it down. If I tell you to do a specific action, I need you to do it. If I tell you to pick a niche and only pick one niche and not have two niches, I need you to only pick one niche. And that's because like right now I've got more knowledge in this area than you have, and I need you to trust me, and I need you to put your ego to one side and believe that what I'm telling you is true and within your best interests. And the reason I need to do that is because I need you to understand that I was where you are. I know what it's like to not know where to start and to be like unhappy about your current position in life and to not have any status or to not have any money. Or I know what it's like. I get it, and I've done it. I've been where you are and I've gone where you want to go, and I know exactly what you have to do to get it. So I need you to trust me, and I need you to apply this stuff. Please, for the love of goodness and the love of God and everything holy and above us, like, or beneath us, please apply what I tell you to apply. because if you don't, there's no point in me giving you this information. Like, imagine buying a hammer to put a nail in a wall. But if you don't use the hammer, it's no worth to you, right? So please use it. Anyway, so how do we apply information to our current situation and use it to solve problems? I know it seems obvious, but like, what actually is application? Well, you can imagine the situation like this. So here we have our current situation, and here we have our desired situation. Or, if it's for your clients, you have your client's current situation and your client's desired situation. And obviously we have this gap represented by this line, but you'll notice something different this time. What we have is problems, okay? And really, like, in the macro, like getting to 10K a month from zero, or going from like being really overweight to being like shredded and really in shape, or going from having a terrible relationship to your father with, like him being your best friend, like these are big macro changes. And you're not just going to find that there's just one problem you have to solve to get there, right? So what you'll find for the big macro life-changing transformation is it's a series of problems, and it's a ladder of problems, okay? And I want you to imagine that these problems are like physical walls. So, the gap between where someone is now and where they want to be is basically a wall of problems or obstacles. And so if you imagine that this is, $0 a month, and this is 10K a month, or this is $0 and this is $1 million, like in your way, you got problems. And all you have to do to go through this transformation is solve these problems, okay? And so what you do, if these problems were actually physical walls standing in your way, is you buy a hammer, or you take a hammer or a tool that's similar, and you'd smash them down, and you'd clear the path one by one for progress. And that would look like this. You just get a hammer, you'd be like, here's the wall, bang. The wall is gone. Might take you like a day to clear it. And there's another wall, and that's all it is just clearing out walls until you get where you want to go. And this is exactly how the application of critical information works, both for you in your life and for your business when you're helping your clients, okay? So you need to start looking at information and critical information as a tool. It's something that you use to solve problems. And the only metaphor I could really come up with here was to imagine that a problem is a wall and the tool is a hammer, and what the wall is the problem, and the hammer is obviously the information, and you use the information to solve the problem, okay? So the actual application of critical information is a 12-step process, okay? So the first thing we have to do to apply information is find out what information we need in the first place. This is like the secret to life. So the first step is to define, what is the problem? Like, what do the pins in the lock look like? Like, what's this issue? What's the nature of this problem? Once you've defined the problem and the nature of the problem, the second step is location. Where can I find the information I'm looking for? The third step is to seek. So once you've located, like, where the hell do I actually find this information? Like, where do I go? Who do I speak to? Like, what vessels of reality will contain this, this information? Like, can I talk to people? Can I read books? Do I need to think about it and use my imagination? Because that's a place you can go. Do I need to go to a seminar? Do I need to go to YouTube? Is there a podcast on this? Like, for example, when I was trying to solve the problem of my first marketing agency, my first business was a business that helped gyms with membership acquisition. So I would help fitness facilities and gyms with marketing. And one of the problems that my clients had eventually was customer retention and keeping members around. And so what I did is I spent a long time researching gym membership retention strategies. And there's like podcasts on it that I listened to, and like people that were experts in it that I talked to, and gyms that I talked to. And, I gathered the information and used it to help my clients and added value by solving that painful problem. So once you've located where you find the information, then you need to seek for the information. So you actively search for the required information in the places it can be found. And you do this by asking questions or clicking around and tapping on your keyboard. Receive. So once you seek it and you find it, then you're going to receive it with your sensory system. And this is basically your sensory system coming into contact with the information. So, like you're talking to the person and you're hearing them speak and you're reading their lips, or, you're on a forum on Reddit and you read the information and process it. The next step is processing, because your brain processing the information. The sixth step is understanding. And this is your conscious mind understanding it. And to understand something means just to give it meaning. So, if you process information, like about how to solve a problem, and you receive that information, but you don't understand it, then you're not going to do anything with it. That's why with this video, for example, I've tried to make it simple, and I've tried to give you concrete examples, and I've given you simple diagrams and you stick men, and like I could make this thing infinitely complicated and complex, but I've tried to make a very complicated abstract idea as simple and rudimentary as possible, with the exclusion of the fancy name, but I love fancy names, so please forgive me on that. But I've tried to make it pretty simple so that you can understand it and give it meaning. Because if I start talking about well, I'm not going to get into it because I can just massively overcomplicate this if I want to. So that's that. So judge. Once you've understood the information, you need to judge it. And this is called critical thinking. And this is very important because you need to judge whether the information is true or not. And I'm talking about truth in terms of like insofar as that it actually solves the problem. So is it objectively accurate? Okay. Decide. Conscious decision to act on the information and deciding what to do about it. So once you've understood the information and you've judged it as true or false or good or bad, then you're going to decide what to do with it. So what the hell am I going to do with this thing, right? Then you act. So decision is the precursor to action. So the action is using your energy, using your calorific potential, using the energy in your body and your mind to think or physically move your body to act out your decision. So, if I find that, if I find a piece of information about gym membership retention and I process it in my brain, so I receive the information, let's say I'm listening to a podcast, I receive the information through my ears. My brain processes the information and I then in turn understand it. So let's say that someone says one piece of information, one piece of critical information to gym membership retention, for example, is when someone leaves the gym, say, see you tomorrow. That's a very simple piece of information, right? And so what that means is like what they found with gym membership retention is like if your staff that are on the counter of your gym that welcome and say goodbye to people, if they say to everyone that leaves, I'll see you tomorrow, membership retention skyrockets, because what that means is that person is now being held accountable by another human who's going to be there every day, and that person is expecting them to be there tomorrow. And when we assign someone with an action or an identity, they're likely to see it through. And so, I understand that, and then I'm judging it. I'm like, okay, well, is that objectively accurate or not? It sounds about right. And this person is an expert, and I've heard this in this place. And hang on, someone did that to me the other day. So yes, it makes sense, right? Then I'm deciding. I'm like, okay, well, what am I going to do about this with this information? Well, I know I'm going to tell my clients that they need to do this. And then the action, which is using energy to think or physically move the body to act on my decision, is calling up my client and saying, hey, you should do this. That's the process of application. Then the next thing is time. And time is giving the act, this is where you give the act, the cause, time to solve the problem. So if I tell my client, hey, you should do this, the client has just received critical information. All I've done is just synthesize. Like I've taken information from one area, from one human, and communicated and transferred it to another. That's consulting, right? That's all it really comes down to, is just taking information and communicating it to someone else, right? You're just passing down information. Or maybe not necessarily from another person, because sometimes you can use your imagination. Like for example, a lot of this information in this video today, I've had to think through myself. Like this idea of like using critical information for current situation and these diagrams and stuff and like all this stuff, like there's a lot I've learned from people, but like I've had to come up with pretty much a lot of this from scratch, right? But that's just using experience. So over time you will be able to synthesize your own critical information. But bear in mind, I've been doing this for like 8 years now. So I've done way more than 10,000 hours of practice. So I can do that. But anyway, so you give it time. So I call up my client. I say, you should say, see you tomorrow to everyone that leaves the gym. And like I've given the critical information to the client. The client has to then go and tell like the reception staff to do it. And, the reception staff will start doing it, but it might take like a week, couple of weeks for that cause to actually create the effect of increasing the retention. Like it takes some time, it takes some consistency. Maybe the receptionist forgets all the time. Maybe the way they say it isn't quite on point, but over time, if it's consistent, it will have the effect. And then after that is the change. So this isn't something you do, but after time, reality changes. So if the gym's retention, doubles, which is it's not going to double from that alone, but let's say the gym's retention, for argument's sake, doubled from that. Well, now we've bended reality to our will. I willed that gym's retention doubled. I found information that would double it, and lo and behold, it doubled. I've changed the world. I've bended a small corner of reality, and it's a very, very satisfying thing to do, and it's a very meaningful, fulfilling activity. And bear in mind, you can do this in a negative way. Like you can bend reality to your will if you're evil and malevolent, but I'm assuming that you're not a bad person and you don't want bad things to happen. If you look at dictators like Adolf Hitler, for example, he had a goddamn evil agenda, and he found some critical information and he applied that, and he did some abhorrent things with tens of millions of people, of all different places. And you can do some real damage with this. So please don't do that. I'm assuming you want to drive positive change in the world. But it works both ways. So please use this with care and don't be a bad person, because I don't want to be responsible for another bloody Holocaust, which I'm sure that's an exaggeration, but you get my point, because this applies to pretty much anything. Anyone who's ever changed anything ever has done this. Just no one's articulated it yet. And then feedback. Did you solve the problem? Right? So once you've seen the change happen, you receive feedback, which is basically the universe saying to you, like, hey, you've changed me a little bit. This is how, and this is why. And, maybe you want to change me a little bit more. Like, maybe we want to double down on this, Like, if so, how well? Do we need new or more information? So you receive feedback and you can make changes. So a couple examples. So we'll just run through these quickly. So let's use this program and your situation financially again. So here's an example. So let's define the problem. I'm broke. I don't know how to make money. I want to be a millionaire. Well, let's locate the information. YouTube, books, online education, or millionaires speaking about experiences. Seeking. Well, let's actually register for this Imperium Academy program. Receiving. Watching the videos, which is what you're doing right now. Processing. Once again, you should be doing this right now. Taking notes, actively listening, having aha moments. Understand. Having aha moments, piecing it together and getting it. So if I say to you, these are the 12 steps to apply critical information, do you understand them? Does this make sense? Is this going in? And then judging, are you accepting the information as valid, bypassing your ego, not rejecting it? So sometimes there's going to be information that for example, let's say I've never done what you want to do before and I start giving you information on how to do it. You should probably not judge that as, as necessarily critical. It's probably not accurate. And the same thing would be true if I had a personal incentive. It's like if I told you, if you ask a barber if you need a haircut, he's always going to say yes, because he's got an incentive. Even if you don't need a haircut, he might say, yeah, I think you do. And it's up to you to judge whether that's critical. But anyway, that's a whole rabbit hole. Then decision. So you make the decision to become successful. You make the decision to take action. You make the decision to listen to me. You make the decision to do what I tell you to do. And then the action, doing the action items laid out in later videos. It might take 6 to 12 months of consistent application and sticking to one niche and sticking to one problem. Then change, you're going to start making money. You're going to start getting clients and getting paid. And then the feedback, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to have blind spots. You're going to have to rewatch videos. This video, for example, I would rewatch this video every month. I would redo the foundational modules and the mindset modules in this program every few months, because you're going to forget stuff and you're going to let go of stuff. And then we've obviously got Easy Grow as another example. So let's say that you use this program to start making some money online and you have a couple of clients, but you can't grow. Well, then you're going to you've got this problem. My business isn't growing. I've got to, a couple of $1,000s a month, or I've got to $10,000 a month, or I got to $20,000 a month, but I'm plateaued and I need more information to, take me to the next level in terms of my client acquisition systems. Because I don't want you to worry about Easy Grow right now, because you don't need it. You haven't even got any clients yet. So why are you concerning yourself with figuring out how to get more? For now, let's just stay focused. But this will happen to you if you apply this information. So the location, then you seek the information by booking a call. You receive the information by watching the videos, attending the Q&As, all these things. And then the process, understanding, you judge the information from Easy Grow, you decide to do something about it, you start building the systems through the actions,
Might take you 3 to 6 months of consistency, and then you'll change. You know, you might 10x your clients, or maybe you get, you know, to 20K a month or 100K a month. Like, I mean, we've done a lot of, like, we've had a lot of people go through this thing and, you know, achieve some pretty obscene change in a short period of time. And then, you know, the feedback might be that you need a better circle, you join them out. I don't know. But you get the point. These are just some examples. So here is a concise and rather articulate summary of this entire idea. In summary, information packages reality into understandable meaning. It is how reality presents itself to us. It manifests as a sensory experience, usually as an image or as a statement articulated verbally or numerically. It illuminates the objective nature of a fragment of reality. After being received, it is processed by the brain, judged, then used as a tool for prudent decision-making to produce physical action in the body that acts as a cause to a desired effect, which is typically to solve a problem that is blocking progress to a desired outcome. It is critical insofar as it is accurate, true, and effective. Simply put, critical information allows us to mobilize reality and send it into battle. Okay, that is what we're dealing with here. And I hope that felt like a little bit of a mic drop moment, because I kid you not, that definition and this understanding took me about 5 days of thinking and work to come to grips with. So I hope that this definition and I hope that this information here is really helping you and shedding some light. So now let's talk about like what this actually looks like. And by the way, one important thing to note here before we actually get into consulting is the term here at the end, accuracy, true, and effectiveness. Like, information is information, but critical information, remember, is information that actually solves the problem. And, you know, there's an abundance of information out there, but very few pieces of information are actually critical and actually can cause the effect you want them to cause. And a lot of pieces of information that seem right and seem true will actually do the opposite of what you want them to do, okay? So, you know, just bear in mind that as you go through and seek information, like, it's only critical, like not all information is critical. It's only critical if it works, and it only works if it's accurate, true, and effective. So let's now explain this business model, because consulting is basically the business model that this program teaches you to start. So I need to define what a consultant, I need to help you understand what the hell this thing is, right? So consulting, that's the business model this program teaches you to start. Consultant, that's what you're going to become. Now, when I say consultant, most people think of some dude in his late 40s in a glass box in London, like in an office, wearing a grey suit with a binder of graphs and corporate speak. That is not what a consultant is or has to be. A consultant is someone who provides or executes on critical information that solves a painful problem for a specific group of people, also known as a niche. And I'll repeat this. A consultant is someone who provides or executes on critical information that solves a painful problem for a specific group of people, aka a niche. So your job as a consultant is literally to like find a group of people, like a niche, find a problem that they have that they suffer with, that causes them a lot of pain, and then go and find the critical information, apply that to the problem to derive a solution, and that's how we make money. Okay? That's the job of a consultant. Now, there are 3 models to make money consulting online. So there's really 3 ways that this sort of chain of events can manifest, really. The first one is done for you. And a done for you consulting model is where you apply the critical information. So you go and find the information, and then you go to someone that has the problem and you say, hey, I've got this solution, I will do it for you. Okay? And here you execute on the critical information on behalf of the client for them to execute on, right? Well, we actually need that. So examples: marketing agency, recruiting agency, personal branding agency, any sort of agency. Like, you know, any time that you do, any sort of business that does something for someone else is a done for you agency, at least in this consulting space, okay? Then we've got done with you, or DWY. And this is where both you and the client apply the critical information together. So once again, you go and find the critical information, but maybe you work with the person, you know, so that you're still responsible to do the work, and so are they. So, the difference between done for you, done with you, and do it yourself, which I'll explain in a second, is basically who's doing the work. Is it you doing the work? Is it both of you doing the work? Or is it the client doing the work? Okay? So, done with you. So here you execute on and communicate critical information on behalf of and to the client. So for example, personal training, any form of one-to-one coaching, done for you marketing with sales coaching. So any business model that revolves around you working with the person, where you're doing the work with the person, is done with you. So for example, say you have a marketing agency, but you also have a coaching element where you teach your clients how to sell the lead that you get them in. Or let's say that you're a therapist, right? And you're sat down talking to people, working through their problems with them, right? That's done with you. That's done with you. It's when it's a combination of done for you and do it yourself. DIY, or do it yourself, is basically where the client applies the critical information that you've taught them. So what our relationship that you and I have right now is DIY. That means I've found the information, I've put it into a program for you, and you're going to do the work. So I've done the work to find it, but you're going to do the work to apply it, okay? So here you just communicate the critical information to the client for them to execute on, okay? You could argue that personal training is DIY, but not really, because you have to be there, right? So examples, this program, Easy Grow. If you're a personal trainer, and let's say that you make a course or a program that you sell that teaches a specific type of person how to do a specific type of exercise or a specific nutrition program, and you create a fitness course. Well, now you've gone from done with you to actually do it yourself. Any course ever. Like if you buy a book, it's do it yourself. Like you're receiving critical information, but you're still doing it yourself. Okay. So these are the three models that we can apply to make money consulting online. Now, the chances are for pretty much every single one of you, you're going to start with either done for you or done with you. DIY is a rite of passage, and this is something that you are working towards and that you won't qualify for yet. And I'll explain why as we go through now. So all three of these models, they vary slightly in structure, but the underlying principle of the business remains the same. You are providing critical information to solve a painful problem to create value. You're applying it, right? Or they are. The only real difference is the distribution of work as to who actually applies the information. So the question is, well, which model should you pick, right? Well, we're not going to concern ourselves too much with this right now, because we're not going to pick your business model until we've gone through the niche and the problem and everything. But in later videos, we'll select your niche and your model and everything. So don't worry. For now, I just want you to understand them. So who are these models for, right? Because this is going to set your expectation as to what you're likely to pick. So done for you is for people who are total beginners with no experience in a niche, where they can deliver value by doing the work for clients. Okay? So the chances are most of you are going to start with done for you, where you find a problem and the solution is going to be, I will actually do this for them. Done with you is also for people who are total beginners with no experience in a niche, but they can only deliver value by working with the client one-to-one, right? So pretty much every single beginner should start with one of these two models, but whether you do done for you or done with you will depend on the nature of the problem and whether or not it can be solved with or without the client. Because some problems that your clients in your market have and that your niche have, like they need to be present for to solve. Okay, like for example, if they're out of shape and you're a personal trainer, like you're doing your consulting, right? You have the critical information. Like if that person's not in the gym with you, then they're not gonna, applying the information doesn't really mean anything. Now, DIY, do it yourself. This is for people who have successfully got the result for 15 plus clients in a niche as done for you or done with you consultant. So this is the rule. Okay, so DIY should be what you're aiming for, right? This sort of, it's really actually called the info model, which is basically where obviously you're selling information with done for you or done with you. But if I ever refer to like InfoBiz, I'm talking about like a course or a high ticket course. But basically the rule of thumb here is once you've successfully accomplished and solved the problem for 15 clients, as a done with you consultant or a done for you consultant, then you can switch to DIY. So until you've successfully serviced 15 clients, and I mean success, I don't just mean get 15 clients. I mean get 15 clients and actually get them the result, like help them achieve the transformation they want to achieve. Until you've done that, DIY is not for you. But there is one exception I'll explain in a second. So for example, if you service 15 agency or one-to-one coaching clients in one niche with the same problem and solve it every time, well, then you qualify for DIY, which is great news because DIY is the best place to be. Now, the other time you qualify for DIY is if you've already solved the problem for yourself. This is a very important thing. So if you want to start a like a course business where the client does the work and you teach them, the first thing is you can only do that if you've already done it for 15 people. But the other time that makes sense and that you can do it if you haven't had clients before is if you've done it yourself. And that's it. So for example, if you're already a successful property investor and you want to turn your personal expertise into a product, then it makes sense. So like, for example, I had my first business as a marketing agency, Northflow Consulting, marketing agency for gyms, right? We were doing 100K a month and I built an agency. What I then did is I transitioned to Imperium Acquisition or Imperium Agency, where I helped people start marketing agencies and get to 100K a month. Now, I hadn't helped 15 agencies get to 100K a month, but what I had done is I'd already done it for myself, right? So let's say, for example, that you want to help property investors, like the example here, you want to help property investors find the right deals. And let's say that you've been doing this yourself for, I don't know, the last 3 years, and you've successfully sourced yourself dozens or hundreds of property deals that have been profitable. Well, you qualify immediately for do it yourself because, well, you've done it, right? You've done it for yourself. But if you haven't done it for yourself, you have to have done it for 15 people successfully. And if you haven't done it for 15 people successfully, then you have to have done it yourself. So this is kind of like why the personal training one's a good example, because if you're a 45-year-old man and you're a busy professional, and let's say that you're in incredible shape and your passion is fitness and you want to turn your passion for fitness into a business, well, you can skip the line and you can go straight to DIY because you've already done it. You can go straight to it and you can prove that. So I'm telling you now that the end goal for any consultant should be DIY. This should be what you aim for. Now, I don't want to confuse you by having you look too far down the line here because that's not what we're trying to do. For now, we're just going to focus on the foundations, the fundamentals, the mindset. But I want to set the expectation now that years from now, a year or 2 or 3 years from now, you should look to transition to DIY. That should be the goal. 99% of you should be aiming for DIY. That should be your goal. Done for you and done with you are simply springboards to DIY. And I'm going to put this in blue. Otherwise, it's going to annoy me. So let's just do that. So DIY, or do it yourself, revolves around selling a high-ticket course. High ticket means you're charging thousands of dollars for access to the critical information required to get the result. And this can sometimes be tens of thousands of dollars. So for example, I have Easy Grow, which is a high ticket program, which means that it costs more than that. Well, I won't give you the specific price here because it doesn't concern you right now. But it's not cheap, right? It's not just like $1,000. It's quite expensive because it's a good bloody program. It solves a lot of problems. So, high ticket means you're charging thousands of dollars for access to the critical information required to get the result. And it can be tens of thousands of dollars. So DIY is by far the most efficient way to become a millionaire and make 100K a month. I have never seen in my life, these short 27 years on this planet, I've never seen a more effective or efficient way to make money, to build a ridiculously profitable lifestyle business or an empire with no risk, just by using your brain. Like it's bloody amazing. So if you're trying to make 100K a month, like doing this with done for you or done with you is extremely difficult unless you have extremely high prices. Even then, there's little to no leverage in done for you or done with you. Because trust me, I've tried it. I had a done for you marketing agency doing 100K a month. I had like 60 done for you clients. That's 60 headaches. Done for you and done with you, you can get to 40, 50K a month with them. Like you can, and that's fine. But going beyond that, unless you have a ridiculously high ticket price, you should transition to DIY as soon as you can. And I know that 100K a month for you is just going to seem absolutely ridiculous right now. I'm aware of that. And I know that you're like, that's just not possible. But trust me, stick to this for a couple of years and I'm telling you, it'll work. So done for you and done with you are absolutely amazing models for beginners who are just starting out. They honestly, like, they really are. It's like you shouldn't look for DIY unless you've already done it yourself. But the second that you become competent enough to be considered an expert, which is, you know, these qualification parameters here, which is 15 successful clients or having done it yourself, then it's time to switch to DIY. So the pros and cons. I thought I'd just give you like a good example here of the high ticket course DIY model, because there's a lot of pros and very few cons. The cons is that you have to build a fucking course. Trust me. I mean, anyone that's done this will know what I'm talking about. Like, building a course, it is very difficult. You're not, like I said, this is for like you in like 18 months, 2 years from now. I don't want you to even think about this right now. Maybe like a year from now. We're not going to worry about it. But I'm setting your expectation as to what's coming, right? Because I'm by hell or high water, if you listen to me and you do what I'm telling you to do, you're going to get to 10K a month. You know, 20K a month, 30K a month. You will. By Easy Grow, you'll get in there, you'll scale up, you'll crush it. But the end of the road is building a course, okay? And then you also need to be an expert to start. But DIY, it's more profitable, it's more scalable, it's more fun, clients get better results, you have less stress, it's more systemized, it's repeatable, there's less reliance on you, it's more consistent, you don't need to hire any talent to deliver the value, you have better guarantees, you don't have to talk to clients, it's centralized support. Like, I mean, there's a ton of pros to DIY. So this is what you have to look forward to a year or a few years from now. However, like, starting a business is like driving a car at night. Okay, so what you're doing now is it's like driving a car at night. You should only concern yourself with what is right in front of you. And if you try to look miles down the road, you're going to crash and burn. So I don't want you to start building a course now or worrying about becoming an expert. For now, I just want you to pay attention to the next few videos and do the fundamentals. Okay? So at the end of the day, if you get in your car at night, you have your destination, you have your goal, right? Which should obviously be like 10K a month or 5K a month, whatever you want. But the ultimate destination is going to be getting to DIY. And I want you to have that goal in mind. And now just remember the goals there, but don't even think about it anymore. Just don't even try and start worrying about how you're going to build a course and all this stuff, because trust me, you don't need to worry about it right now. You know, if you're driving a car at night and you try and look miles down the road, you will crash and burn. I just want you to see this as a destination so you know where you're headed. And I call this Consulting Nirvana, which is a 4-phase course with I think like 25 or 26 videos. And it teaches that sort of A to Z process on how to go from, you know, done for you or done with you to DIY. So this is down the road. This is, like I said, a year or a few years from now. Now we can forget about it. Straight back to reality. We're getting back to the immediate moment. No more thinking about the future. Back to the next couple of weeks, okay? So 6-figure roadmap. So what I wanted to do here now is sort of just round off this video. I know it's been a long one, but round off this video by giving you a macro to-do list of every major activity milestone you must complete to become a successful consultant. So I'm going to give you a list of everything that you need to do in order throughout this program to become a successful consultant. Like, it's gonna bring so much clarity to you, and I'm just gonna give you some checkboxes, like do this, then this, then this, then this, so it becomes very linear and very simple. So the road ahead is designed to bring some clarity to the next steps you're going to be taking in your journey to getting your first few clients and actually making money with your business. And it's here, okay? So this will be available in the resources section below for you to download as a PDF. But this is the roadmap. This is like in order. This is exactly what you have to do to become a successful consultant. And I'm defining successful as someone who actually gets clients, actually gets results for their clients, and starts making, you know, 6 figures or a little bit more or a little bit less. So the first thing you have to do is understand the fundamentals. And understanding the fundamentals is basically watching the, you know, first videos in this program and getting to grips with them. Then you have to pick a niche. So you have to find a group of people that, you know, you're interested in, that you want to serve, and pick a niche. And then you need to conduct niche research, which means you need to understand that niche, and you need to really, you know, get to grips with what they're like and what problems they have. And then you're going to build a niche avatar, which is basically where you're going to, you know, I'm going to show you how to create a document that explains your niche and helps you understand like what problems they have and all this stuff. So we sort of we research, and then we make our research concrete. And then we're going to find the niche's problem. So we're actually going to define like, what damn problem do you want to solve with your business? Like, where are you going to alleviate this pain to create this value to make this money? And then we're going to validate the solution to the problem. So we're going to confirm that this problem can be solved and that it's possible to solve and we can find the information to solve it, which is important. And then once we've validated the solution, we're going to create an offer. So we're going to package our solution into a compelling sales argument that we can put in front of the niche to indicate that we can solve the problem for them. Once we've done this, these are the sort of fundamentals of the business. This is the DNA of your business, so to speak. Then what we're going to do is some basic company setup. So we're just going to basically like set you up so that you don't just look like some dude in a garage, basically, or a basement, or girl in the basement. Then we're going to fix your mindset. This is honestly, I'm going to put a couple of exclamation marks next to this. This here is probably going to be the most important thing, the biggest point of leverage for you in this program. I know that mindset isn't sexy. I know that you're here because you want to get sales calls and make money. Trust me, like Karate Kid style, wax on, wax off stuff, you're going to think it's a waste of time. You're going to think it's useless. But once you've been through it and you've applied it, you're going to be able to block kicks and do all this cool karate stuff. You know, so trust, if you don't get the Karate Kid reference, I apologize for your childhood, but you know, we're going to fix your mindset because trust me, there's going to be a lot to fix, and do not skip this. You know what? I'm going to say it 10 times. Do not skip this. 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 Do not skip the mindset training. Do not try to 2x speed it. Do not do it when you've got tabs open. Do not do it with your phone on your desk. This is the most important thing, and that's that. Well, the most important thing is your foundations, really, because without them, there's no point in the mindset training. But if you can just about get through the first week for me and listen to me and do it properly, this thing, my goodness. And then we're going to become an expert. So I'm going to show you how to actually become an expert. I'm going to give you my framework for solving problems. I'm going to show you how to find the critical information. I'm going to show you how to judge that critical information. I'm going to show you how to apply it in more detail. I'm going to actually show you how to solve the problem and how to figure out how to actually add value, in essence. Then we're going to learn sales fundamentals. So once you've got your foundations down, and once you've got your business set up, and you've got your mind in the right place, and you know what you're talking about, then we're going to talk about how to communicate it to people so you can actually start making money. Because if you know what to do, and you've got the discipline to do it, and you've got your company there, but you don't talk to people, well, nothing's going to happen, right? So we're going to teach you the sales fundamentals, like the fundamentals of persuasive communication to actually start getting people to buy your thing. Then we're going to help you write a sales script so you can actually have like a predictable way of interacting with humans to convince them to part with their money for this, in exchange for this expertise you have, for this information. Then we're going to learn appointment fundamentals. So like how to actually, what are the fundamentals of appointment booking? And, basically the way that we're going to make money with our expertise here is we're going to, create content or reach out to people in our niche, and we're going to book what is called a sales appointment. And a sales appointment is basically a scheduled conversation to discuss the problem and our solution to the problem and how we can be compensated financially for that. Then we're going to build the appointment system. So we're actually going to start building the systems out to predictably and reliably book these appointments. Then we're going to book sales calls, okay? Which is actually we're going to actually start getting calls on our calendar and the niche's calendar. And then we're going to conduct sales calls. So, we're going to hop on Zoom when it comes around to the hour. And, we're going to basically say to people okay, well, you should buy this thing. And then they're going to be like, why? And you need to have a damn good reason. And I'm going to walk you through all of that. So, don't worry too much because it's pretty straightforward. I'm going to teach you how to conduct a sales call. And then once you've done this, you're going to sign your first client. Now it might take you, it can take you a lot of sales calls. It took me like 60 sales calls to sign my first client ever. So, fortunately enough for you, you've got a lot of information about how to do this. So it might not take 60, but it's going to take you some doing. Getting this first client, trust me, when you do this, this will be the best feeling. This is better than anything I've ever experienced ever. With the exception of a Five Guys burger every now and then, maybe, I don't know. There's some damn good burgers, but I'm obviously joking. Signing my first client was the best experience of my life. So we're going to do that, and that'll be fun. And when this happens, I want you to, tell everyone about it in the community. Then you're going to onboard your first client. I'm going to give you an onboarding system to get them actually on board. Onboarding is basically the word we use to explain integrating someone into the business. So yeah, actually starting to tee them up so we can act out the solution. And then we're going to deliver the results. So once we've got them onboarded, we're going to basically start getting them results. And if you're doing done for you or done with you, we're going to start applying this critical information for or with them. And then we're going to repeat the 5 steps as much as possible, right? So getting to the point where you get your first client is all about this. It's really about, just these things. But then all your business becomes is about booking sales calls, conducting sales calls, signing clients, onboarding clients, and delivering results. If you all you have to do once you've got your foundation set is just repeat this system. And if you repeat it enough and enough, you'll start to get feedback. So you'll start to get feedback on like how you need to change your result delivery process, like how you need to change the information you're giving people. Or maybe you need to change the way that you sign your clients, or change the expectations you set. Or maybe you need to change the way you book your sales calls or conduct your sales calls. I'm going to teach you how to listen to feedback and iterate, and change your business according to feedback from your client acquisition and client result delivery processes. And then we're going to build some operational systems, just some basic financial systems to keep a track of the money you're making, because trust me, you're going to make it. So we need one of those. And then you're going to invest into EasyGrow and scale up. I know that I keep on plugging EasyGrow here, but obviously that's, I've candidly, I think I've explained this in the introduction video, like the intention I have here is to turn you into someone that can buy EasyGrow. Don't get me wrong, like I want you to succeed, and like I want you to go through the transformation that I went through, because I wish I had this information. I had this information when I was starting, but not in this detail, right? So I want the best for you, and I want you to become successful because I love you, because you were me, if that makes sense, or you are who I was. And I want to help facilitate that transformation because it means a lot to me. And I like to give back. But also, like, I want you to do these things, and I want you to take these actions so that eventually you love me because I've helped you so much, and you come to me and you're like, all right, I'm going to buy EasyGrow now. I'm going to buy your program, Charlie. Like, I'll spend that money and I'll buy it, sure. And that's the step. If you do that, you can scale up, and then eventually maybe you'll buy my mastermind. That's a pretty exclusive club, so we'll see about that. But anyway, that's the roadmap. So that's what we're going to be doing as we... Oh, what have I done here? Wait, let me just change this. Kind of broke it a little bit there, didn't I? Here we go. Okay. So, yeah. So basically, these are the steps we're going to go through in this program. It should be nice and clear as to exactly what steps we're going to be taking. Like I said, this is an important point. Please do not concern yourself with writing a sales script yet, or like conducting your sales calls, or like, oh, how do I onboard clients? Or like, oh, I need to build my financial spreadsheets. Like, we're doing this one step at a time. Trust me, I'm going to hold your hand through the whole thing. We're going to start with the fundamentals. We're going to build the understanding of that, which is kind of what we've just done in this video, and a couple more videos as well. Then we're going to go through this step by step. It's going to be nice and slow, nice and steady. It's not going to be too slow, but it's going to be nice and straightforward. And we're going to do it step by step. I'm going to hold your hand. I just wanted to give you an idea as to exactly what order we're doing things in. And then you can have this roadmap checklist. In fact, I'd recommend you download it from the resources section. Have it in your desktop, and every time you've done one of these things, you just tick it off. And then this way, becoming successful and getting what you want just becomes about ticking boxes, which is pretty much the case anyway. So online consultants can make up to $3 million a month. I make like $1 million a month right now. I'm sure that by the time you watch this, I might be doing $2 million a month or $3 million a month. I do like 10, 12 mil a year at the moment. I know what to do to get to 20 and 30. So depending on when you watch this and come on board, chances are I'll already be there. But you can make up to $3 million a month, depending on your goal, your niche, your drive, your skills, your talents, and more. What you're seeing here, this thing here, this is just the roadmap to get to $1,000 to $10,000 a month. I promise you it's possible. I promise. If you just do what I tell you to do, and you perform the actions, I'm going to give you the causes. You don't really have to figure much out. I'm going to give you everything you need to do. All you have to do is just do it. Listen, pay attention, phone off desk, close your tabs, noise cancelling headphones on if you've got them, 1.25 times speed maximum on the videos, pay close attention, copious notes, listen to the videos time and time again, repeat them, take the actions, do it, stay consistent, stick to it, and it's possible. It just depends if you want it or not. If you just listen to me and do the work, it will happen. And so this is the transformation I've made. So I've gone from making $1,000 a month. Actually, it was less than this. When I was doing my apprenticeship, I was making about $4 an hour. Like in the UK, if you're a business and you have an apprentice, you can pay them £3.50 an hour. And you best believe that's what my boss paid me, although I had some sales commission. But I was making about $1,000 a month working an apprenticeship doing cold calling, you know. And I was pretty unhappy with my life. And 7 years has elapsed, and I'm now making more than $1 million a month, and I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm leading an industry, and I'm having the best time. I love my life. I've got this beautiful home. I've got a wonderful group of friends. Like, everything's good, right? And so I've gone from everything being bad to everything being good. And I've gone from $1,000 a month to $1 million a month. Like, I've 1,000x my income, and all I've done to do that is find and apply critical information. All it's been is this. Just, there's a problem. Okay, what critical information do I need to solve it? Find the information, come back, apply the information to the problem, break the problem. With time, it'll clear up. Oh, there's another problem. You know, oh, there's another problem, another one. It's like problems in business are like whack-a-mole. Like, you know, there's a problem, you whack the mole down, and then another one comes up. And then you whack that one, and another one comes up, and you whack that one. And eventually the problem you have is you're making so much money and paying so much in tax that you have to start moving to Dubai. And then the problem you have is that, you know, you can't, like, the problem I've got right now is, like, in order for me to grow, easy grow, and my mastermind, my business, I have to create this program so I can grow the damn market. Like, it never stops. The problem never stops. But let's get you to 10K a month first, right? So let's round this off. I know it's been a long one. We're going to round it off with the quadrant. So there are only 4 things that matter in your consulting business, right? And I'm going to put this, let's just do this. The 4 things that matter. There are only 4 things that matter in your consulting business. If you ever catch yourself working on anything but one of these 4 things, then you're wasting your time and doing the wrong thing. So the first thing is solid foundations and mindset. So we have these 4 quadrants here. And if you're not, like, if in your business, you're going to be tempted to do a lot of crap. If you're not doing something that is one of these 4 things, you're wasting your time, okay? So the first thing that is important that you have to do and have to get right is solid foundations and mindset. So this means nailing your understanding of business fundamentals, which is like remembering the stuff from this lesson and applying the stuff from this lesson and lessons to come on fundamentals. The second part of solid foundations and mindset is actually getting your business foundations right. So picking a good niche, finding a solid problem, crafting a great offer, and developing expertise. So the foundations of your business is niche, problem, solution, offer, and expertise. But we'll get into that in more detail. Solid foundations and mindset. So nailing your understanding of mindset. So fixing your belief systems, fixing your identity, fixing your paradigms. This is all going to come across to you as like weird woo-wah, like what the hell, I don't need that, I don't know what that means. But trust me, like I said, the mindset stuff, don't skip it, we'll get into that. The next thing that's important is booking sales appointments. So consistently reaching out to people in your niche with your offer to encourage them to schedule a call with you. And then creating content for people in your niche to encourage them to schedule a sales call with you. Okay, should be doing that. Closing sales appointments. Conducting sales calls via Zoom to sign strangers into paying clients using your sales script. And then delivering value, which is actually like, you know, giving people what they want. So constantly working on your expertise, training and practicing your craft, like constantly seeking more critical information and becoming more and more critical about the information that you seek. And then working with or on clients and getting them results, keeping your promises and making them really happy. So, you know, basically my point is that if you want to become successful with this consulting business, you should be working on nailing the fundamentals of the business, nailing your foundations of the business, which is like, you know, these things here, working on your mindset, booking appointments with outbound, booking appointments with inbound. Outbound is when you reach out to someone to get them to schedule a call. Inbound is when someone reaches out to you to schedule a call. So that's obviously like cold email or cold calling or cold DMing. This is obviously content. And then closing sales appointments, which is actually conducting the sales calls, and then actually delivering results. So, you know, getting better at what you do and working with your clients to get them results. That's the quadrant. Okay, you can take a screenshot of this page if you want. Obviously, you can download this entire resource in the in the resources section of this video anyway. But remember this, because you're going to be tempted to work on all sorts of crap that doesn't matter. If it's not foundations and mindset, if it's not booking sales appointments, if it's not closing sales appointments, and if it's not delivering value or getting better at what you do, it's a damn waste of time. So that, my friends, is elucidatory axioms. We've covered causal law, we've covered making money, and we've explained how to actually make money. We've covered critical information and how to find this, and we haven't just. I'll cover how to find it when we talk about how to become an expert. So don't worry about that. I'm gonna blow your mind with that as well. I'm gonna show you how to become an expert in something really damn quickly. How to become one of the best at what you do in a completely unprecedented time, as it's possible. And I'm gonna show you how to do that. Then we've got lock and key. So using the lock and key analogy to explain critical information and how it solves problems. Bending reality, we talked about how to change the world to your will by seeking information and applying it. How to actually apply information and what the 12-step process of application actually is. We've explained the business model and what it entails, and the 3 ways that you can go about it, and the idea that DIY is what you should aim for in the end, but that for now we're probably going to do done for you, done with you. We've gone through the 6-figure roadmap, which is basically everything you have to do to become a 10K a month consultant or agency owner, whatever word you want to use. And then we've talked about the quadrant. So I hope you enjoyed this video. This one was hell on earth to make, as I'm sure you can imagine. But I do it for the love of the game, and I do it for the love of the clients. And I just want to sort of reiterate this idea that I really do want the best for you, and I really do want you to become successful. And it would mean the world to me if you apply this information and see to it that you take responsibility for your situation and just try your damn best. That's all I ask. Because I can change your life if you let me. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.